Hello, everyone, and welcome back to part 2 of my Mormon Stories interview with Thomas and Cece Stokes. My name is John DeLynn. It is September 27th, 2021. And as I just mentioned, we are now in part 2 of an episode that I believe is entitled Healing Through a Faith Crisis with Music. And we just finished a good 3-ish hours with Thomas and Cece Stokes. They're a wonderful couple, just talking about their upbringings in the church and Thomas's mission and let's just say Cece's healthy but very unorthodox Mormon upbringing and how they eventually ended up meeting at various stages in their lives, but then dating while Thomas was at BYU after he had served his mission in Chile. And how they had kind of an unorthodox Mormon courtship from the standpoint that Cece was had not been introduced into the Mormon shame cycle. She was confident in her unorthodox and or Jack Mormonism, as she kind of jokingly described it, but she was willing to stoop to date an uptight Mormon return missionary in Thomas. And we also talked about how and why Thomas was willing to date Cece, even though she had a past, let's just say, not the white and delightsome path that Orthodox Mormons are raised as it relates to the Law of Chastity and other types of things. I'm speaking a little bit jokingly, tongue-in-cheek. You'd have to go back to watch part 1 to know what I'm talking about. And you should go back to part 1 and watch what I'm talking about before we jump in now to part 2. But without any further ado, the way we left off was that Cece and Thomas were dating while Thomas was at BYU. They were starting to get serious. They were trying to still obey the honor code and the Law of Chastity so Thomas wouldn't get kicked out of BYU and out of the temple and out of the church and that sort of thing. But Thomas had questions about his Mormon testimony dating back from the time of his mission, but also from some of his classes at BYU and his exposure to the Gospel Topics essays. And so at the point where they meet, they're happy, they're in love, they're close friends, they're thinking about marriage, but Thomas is trying to decide what his relationship with the church is and isn't going to be. And I get the sense that he's on the ledge of a faith crisis. And that's where we leave off. So Cece and Thomas, welcome back to Mormon Stories.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Yeah. How was that introduction?
Yeah, no, that was
Very
spot
good.
on. Yeah.
And what's it like being in, Thomas, your 4th hour of a Mormon Stories interview?
It's pretty surreal. It's weird.
Dream
Is it
come
3rd or
true.
4th? Like I've already lost track.
Well, the first one was like 2 hours, 40 minutes.
Okay, so you're almost in your 3rd hour.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so where do we go from here?
My faith crisis.
Okay.
Let's just go for it.
So you're at this point, what year is it and what are your ages?
This is the summer of 2018, a.k.a. Summer of Greatness.
I would say not summer.
Sorry. Fall. Early fall.
Fall of 2018,
Yeah.
so literally 3 years ago.
Yep.
You called it your Summer of Greatness.
Mm-hmm. It was amazing. Went on adventures, canyoneering, mountain biking, met the love of, or not met because I already knew her, but started dating the love of my life, broke my collarbone, had a PICC line in my body to treat the infection that was in the break, and just like wild summer, just a wild summer, I would say. But as John described pretty accurately, I was on the fence about the church. I was worried about the doubts I had. My shelf was getting heavier and heavier, and I think we should just dive right into the breaking point, if that's all right with you. What caused it, and yeah. Anything to say, babe?
No, I don't think so. At this point, I was, 20? And you were 23?
Oh, yeah. I was 23. You were 20.
So we were both really young, dealing with some heavy stuff, but we made it work. So.
Yeah. So I was in the BYU library one day, and I was doing my homework. And by homework, I mean like messing around on Instagram and Facebook. And I saw a post from an old friend on Facebook that had a meme of all the problems with the church, like all of them. It was a big meme. It was a jumbo plus
A lot of
size,
text.
a lot of text in
You
this.
still
meme.
have it?
I could probably find it if I tried, but it was like, it had a quote from a general authority and a picture of them at General Conference saying like something about all the problems with the church have answers, something like this. And then there was a long list and it said like, oh, well, what about blah, 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 and it listed all of them in small text. And I was like, took a deep breath. I had already been thinking about it. There were some that I saw that I recognized, some that I didn't recognize. And I was like, if this is the true church, then it can withhold, or it can withstand scrutiny. And
Tell our listeners what some of the items might have been.
yeah, let's go for it. So there was blacks in the priesthood. There was polygamy / polyandry, which I was like a little confused because I didn't know what polyandry meant. But polygamy, polyandry. There was Book of Abraham. There was Kinderhook plates. There was Adam God theory. There was LGBTQ plus issues. There was like November 2015 policy. Everything. Give me more, and I can guarantee you they were on there.
It was really comprehensive.
It was comprehensive.
They covered everything.
Yeah. Even
More
like,
than the
like
yes,
Zelf. Even stuff like Zelf. Like
Zelf the White Lamanite.
Zelf the White Lamanite.
I want to challenge you to find this meme, and we'll add it to the show notes, if you can find it.
Yeah, I'll do my best. I'll see if I can find it. So I saw it. I took a deep breath, and I said, here we go. Let's do this. And I started researching. And the first thing that really disturbed me was Adam God theory, of all things, because...
Well, that's a big one, actually.
I know, but it's so
Tell our
off the
listeners what that
wall.
is. Tell our listeners
It's
what that
so
is.
weird. I'd never heard of it. Brigham Young taught that, I don't know if it was in his later years or whatever. Brigham Young taught that Heavenly Father came down as a man, as Adam. So Adam is literally our Heavenly Father, and that he's the one we need to worship. And I'm like, what? That's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. How could a prophet of God who literally talks with God say that? And then I learned that it was later disavowed. And I'm like, if it was true and if it was revelation, prophets can't lead us astray. So why is Brigham Young over here teaching totally outlandish false doctrine? Because that was through a believing lens. I was like, how could he teach this blasphemy? Which now I'm like, he was just, crazy doing his own thing.
Saying what he wanted to.
And, the only answer I really got from that one is some kid that I was working with. He was like, oh, yeah, Brigham Young was like senile in his later years, and that's why he said that, which I don't know if that's true. I'm not a historian. But that really disturbed me. And then I was like, well, if this is disturbing, what else is going to be this bad? And so I started looking at polygamy, learned more of the details about that, which I knew most of the details there, but I learned about the coercion and the pressure that Joseph Smith put on those poor, young women, girls even, to marry them. I learned about the dirty side of it. I learned about the Fanny Alger, Oliver Cowdery calling it a dirty, filthy, nasty affair. Emma catching them in the barn together. I learned about...
Yeah, and I'll always have to pause there.
Yeah.
Because the Fanny Alger, she's listed by the church as Joseph's first plural wife.
Yeah.
But what is deeply problematic about that, it's like, oh, what's wrong with wife number 2, after Emma? Well, one of the main problems was that Emma didn't know. And the second main part of the problem was not only had the polygamy revelation not been received yet, which became D&C 132,
yeah.
the sealing power had not been received yet. The sealing power didn't come until Kirtland later, and he's having sex with Fanny in the barn before either of those things came.
Who I think was 16 or 17? Or was she older?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know her age.
Yeah, that's okay.
But also, if like the Oliver Cowdery is like second elder at the time, in other words, he's like second prophet or co-prophet, if he's calling it an affair and then he gets excommunicated for calling it an affair, because he clearly, if it was a revelation or from God, no one told him. And why didn't anyone tell him? Because the sealing power and the revelation hadn't been given yet. That's the most logical answer. Then why is Joseph Smith excommunicating his co-prophet just for calling what was clearly an affair an affair? Like that's all a real problem. Not to mention the fact that Emma doesn't end up getting sealed to Joseph
like the 20th
until
wife,
like 20th or 21st wife. In other words, he lies about 20 wives before he ends up actually ever getting sealed to Emma.
Because she finds out, not because he comes to her, but because she finds out about it. And
sorry, I didn't mean to go on a rabbit
no, that's
hole.
okay.
That reminds me, though, if I can interrupt too.
Anytime. We want you interrupted.
I meant to mention this earlier, but all of what you just said about Joseph, deceiving Emma, putting Emma on the back burner, like we all know her story is extremely sad and that he really put her through the ringer. And that's actually something that was very defining in my youth, was that one day my mom and dad were talking about the church, which they didn't do very often because, again, they gave us freedom if we wanted to go. If we didn't want to go, they didn't want to sway us in either direction. But I do remember they were talking about the church, and I know for a fact that my mom specifically feels very strongly about Joseph Smith. And I remember she said, I must have been...
In a good way or a bad way?
Bad way.
Oh.
Very bad way.
Oh, really?
Yes. And so this might have even been before I was baptized, which I was baptized late at 12 years old. But whenever she said this, I was pretty young, and it has still stuck with me to this day. She said that Joseph Smith broke Emma's heart. And I didn't know much about Joseph Smith. Even after that, I didn't find out that much about him. I just knew that he was, the prophet. And I knew the story of the first vision and all of that. But now that we've dug into church history a little bit more together, even as a couple, Thomas and I, we've listened to podcasts and stuff about all of his wives and his polygamy, silly business. And it's just so true. Like he broke Emma's heart. And that's something I think that was really defining for me too in my youth, was that he, put her through that. Mm-hmm. And I forgot to mention that earlier, but
Cece's always been big on love and, being a good couple. And she's a hopeless romantic. And so
not even that, it's just being a good husband.
Yeah. So hearing that from an early age, Joseph broke Emma's heart. It's true.
That's very defining for me.
And impacted you.
Continue.
Yeah. So polygamy, where were we?
Just listing all the
things. Yeah. So polygamy was bad. Blacks in the priesthood were bad too, because on my mission, I realized, this is going back a ways, but I realized that it wasn't just the priesthood. It was temple blessings. It was being sealed to your family. It was everything.
Tell the listeners for their non-Mormon listeners.
Right.
So tell them what the church's deal was there.
Up until 1978.
So from 40, let's just say 44.
Yeah, since Joseph Smith died.
To 1978.
Yeah, the church excluded black people or anyone with African descent, even if you had like a 16th part African
drop
American
of blood
or anything.
Of Cain's blood.
Any drop of Cain's blood, and you were excluded from holding the priesthood and from enjoying the blessings of the temple, which included, baptisms for the dead, sealings, endowment, being a general authority, anything.
Temple marriage.
All of it.
Which is like what you're...
The whole
that's the main
purpose
goal
of our life here on this planet, So that was really hard. I dove more into it than I ever had before. I learned about like them lifting it because BYU or because the tax exemption status was being threatened, and people were boycotting BYU sports because they were extremely late to the game on the civil rights movement. They're late to every single civil rights movement there is. They're currently late to LGBT equality, and they will be for a long time, and they're late to everything. So yeah, that was big.
What other ones were really weighing heavily on you?
I should have mentioned this first, but the Book of Abraham was...
What about it? Tell our listeners what that is.
Yes, the Book of Abraham. Joseph Smith bought some mummies and papyri, I think that's the plural, how you say it, off of this traveling showman sale that he would merchant type guy. And he saw the scrolls and said, I'm going to translate these, and translated them and said that they were written by the hand of Abraham, that they were a record of his life and his revelations. It had all sorts of pretty wild doctrine in the Book of Abraham, some wild stuff. And he claimed to know that's what those scrolls said. And there were facsimiles or that had like pictures on it and hieroglyphics and depictions of different things that I won't say what they are yet. But Joseph Smith said this is Abraham being sacrificed on an altar. This facsimile number 2, I think, is the talking about the alignment of the planets and where God lives and God giving the holy signs of the priesthood and this, that. And just a huge elaborate translation of these documents, only to later find out I won't go through all the historical details, but the Rosetta Stone was discovered and people began to translate Egyptian hieroglyphics. And when the time came, they thought that the scrolls were lost, but they found them, long story short. In the 60s, I believe, they were translated again, this time by Egyptian scholars, and they were found to be nothing more than standard funerary texts that, did not mention Abraham at all. Nothing.
And it's slightly worse than that because by 1912, the New York Times does a front page article where Egyptologists, they didn't have the full papyra, but they had the facsimiles because the facsimiles had been reproduced in newspapers or the scriptures or whatever. And the Egyptologists in 1912 translated the facsimiles.
Yes.
They could show immediately that the word Abraham didn't even appear anywhere on them. And that was in the New York Times. So the brethren have known for at least 100 years, 110 years, that the book of Abraham was not a translation, but there was no accountability, no reconciliation, no admission,
Yeah, totally hidden. They kept it under wraps from their members by telling them that anything that didn't go with the doctrine was anti-Mormon and could not be trusted. And when I finally got a hold of that and really looked into the book of Abraham, outside of the gospel topics essays, it became abundantly clear that the book of Abraham was a fabrication. And that right there was huge. That led me to question the Book of Mormon, and that's when I learned more about the anachronisms in the Book of Mormon. I learned more about the seer stone, like we said in part 1, that was problematic for me. Just everything you can imagine. And then I want to say I found out about Mormon stories through my cousin who had left the church, because I came to her and I was like, help, what is happening? And so she directed me to Mormon stories, and of course that led me to learn even more. The Grant Palmer episode was huge. The Richard Bushman episode was huge. Michael Cohn, is it Coe? Michael Coe.
What was it about those episodes that were meaningful to you?
Here were
which ones?
Historians, scholars, smart people, non-biased, that did their research the way that research is supposed to be done. And it was found that the Book of Mormon, Joseph Smith,
just ripped it apart.
The entire church was demonstrably untrue. It was false. And that was a huge blow to my heart. I felt it deep inside, and it hurt really bad. From then, I started experiencing major anxiety. Did not know what it was. I just thought it was either the spirit leaving or me being sad about it. I had no idea. It was freaking me out because I'd never felt anxiety before. My whole world came crashing down, and part of this was, I wanted so bad to bring Cece into the gospel and have her know the true joy of it. And I said, how can I do that now when I know it's not true? And that may have also been kind of your deal with your parents. It's like, hey, I'm bringing her into the church. Yeah.
And they're probably looking forward to that.
Exactly.
And kind of expecting that.
Yeah, they were excited about that.
So,
because it was like the one hope.
I don't even know this. Where on the timeline did you find that meme on the timeline of us dating? Like, how long had we been dating?
We had been dating for like 2 months.
Okay. Right off the bat.
Yeah. We had been dating for about 2 months, I think. And, I was just like totally torn apart by it. There was a moment, when things started to get slightly better, I decided to tell Cece about it. I was like, Cece, And I wanted to be such a good example for her. I wanted to bring her back. I wanted to, show her the joy of the gospel. But I was like, I can't lie to her. I can't I can't put on a show. And if this is the woman I love, I need to be honest. So we were driving to the pet store to get a betta fish for our nephew's birthday. And I looked at her and I was like, Cece, I don't know if the church is true anymore. And she was shocked. I'll go to you for how you felt.
Yeah, I can't even say I remember exactly how I felt. But yeah, it was, I guess just the best word is I was a little bit shocked, and it was jarring because up until this point, he had tried to show how steadfast he could be, and he, was trying to help me come to the light rather than him come to the dark. And so for him to just say it like that, point blank, because he hadn't told me, again, he's educated me on pretty much all of the church history that I know because he cares to do a lot more research about it than I do. But at that point, I didn't know what he'd been looking into that made him so unsure all of a sudden. And so I didn't want him to, jump into anything that he wasn't completely sure about. And that's when I told him that he needed to be sure before leaving the church, because I knew that was going to be a really big deal. I don't know anybody outside of my parents who have really, really left the church. But when they did it, I wasn't paying attention.
So by this point, your parents were totally out?
Yeah, yep. They'd been out for a while. And so, but again, yeah, I wasn't paying attention to them when they left. And I think they did it kind of quietly for our sakes. So then here's my boyfriend who I really like, and I'm going to have to go through all of this with him. And so I was like, you need to be sure.
Yeah. She was like, let's keep going to church every week. You need to read the scriptures. You need to study outside. You need to pray. You need to do all the things. I remember we were laying on the couch when she was telling me all this, and I was very grateful for that, because if she would have said, let's get out now, I would not have been ready. I would have freaked out. If she was like, let's just do whatever we want now, I would have freaked.
I was to that point. You were not. So
no, I was definitely not to that point. It would have horrified me to move that fast, because no matter what it is in life, I kind of move slow on any sort of transition, whether it be with a relationship, new beginnings, which is interesting because being raised in a military family, I'm pretty good at adapting, but with big things like that, I guess it was going to take me a while. So yeah, that happened. My shelf collapsed. One quick story, my best friend, the one that commented on part one, we went to dinner, and it was really weighing heavily on my mind. We were just at Denny's, and I was like, dude, what do you think about church? Like, how are you feeling about it? And he goes, there are some things that I'm not so sure about. And I slammed my hands on the table, and I was like, right? And we spent the hours just talking about it after we went to the BYU football stadium parking lot, and we're just talking about what we were going to do, what we believed, and how this was all going to work for hours. And I'm just bawling my eyes out. That was a huge moment. It was a core memory, one of the most impactful conversations I have ever had. And it was nice to know that I wasn't alone, that I wasn't the crazy one, And then, of course, as time went on, more and more people I knew and were leaving, and it made a lot more sense.
It was interesting. About the same time that we were kind of heading out the door, I feel like Thomas clicked this radar on, and he started to realize, or he started to notice our friends around us. He was like, I kind of feel like they're on the same page as us. And sure enough, anytime he would reach out, we would talk to them about it, and they'd be like, yeah, we're kind of on our way out too. And so we got really
Mormon radar.
Yeah, we got really lucky that he was paying attention to that. And so we had a couple of really good friends that we were able to go through that transition with, because they were in the exact same boat.
Yeah.
So
if you're watching, we love you.
Yeah, we didn't feel alone. We were like, okay, we're not the only ones.
Yeah.
So
that's huge.
That was good.
Yeah, it was amazing. Now would be a good time to play the next song, because it's all about, the initial realization and horror of a faith crisis.
What's it called?
Assimilation.
Assimilation?
Yeah.
And tell us about some of the lyrics that we should be listening for.
Yeah.
So that we understand kind of a little bit of the interpretation.
So this song, there's a few interesting notes about this song. The first line of the song is "I'm scared of what we created," and it originated when I was I wrote most of the song before this, but this part, we were trying to sleep train our son, and he was being an absolute demon, and he was screaming his head off, and we were trying to comfort him. We couldn't, so we just laid him down. We were both at our wits' end. We went to the kitchen. It was completely dark, and then I didn't know what else to do. I was just ridden with anxiety, and I just start chanting. I go, "I'm so scared of what we created." That's all I could do, and we both start chanting that, and we just started laughing, because what else can you do in a situation like that? So that was the basis for the song. There's another line that I want you to pay attention to that says, "It's a kaleidoscope, it all comes spinning in, is what we learn, just a multicolored shit." And I was horrified to say the SH word. I was like, my family's gonna hear this. Maybe I should just say piss or something like that. And then Cece was like, "No, you have to say shit." And I was like,
he came to me in the living room and he was like, "Which sounds better?" And I was like, "You know which one sounds better."
So yeah.
So language warning.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mild language warning.
Yeah, I say
PG.
shit only once.
PG. No F-bombs.
No.
And then one other thing, if you listen to the song on my EP on Bandcamp, it's a full version, not acoustic. It's awesome. You'll actually hear at the beginning a really weird voice speaking, and that's actually Spencer W. Kimball's voice from 1980, garbled, pitched up, and reversed. So if you want to listen to that, just a little fun fact.
And your
for you.
Bandcamp account again is
Just look up Big Crick on
Big Crick.
Bandcamp. .com, and you'll find it. You can get an app. It's just like Spotify, but it's free, and you just like pay the artist directly rather than doing like a subscription. Anyway, I'll get more into the like business side of my.
So the song's Assimilation.
Yep. Oh, and it's about Joseph Smith. Part of it is about Joseph Smith coming back from the dead to kill us all.
Okay.
I'm scared of when we created. Is it a monster? Is it a memory? Is it a ghost from a different reality? And I think it communicated. Was it a seance? Was it a miracle? I couldn't hear through the thick of the eulogy tears. And you're alive and well. I can't say the same for some, but before they left, they said death's not as bad as it looks, and so I'll try my best to preserve my present mood. And when it comes, I look forward to laying down with you. I'm scared of when I've discovered. Is it a liar? Is it a holy man? He's coming back from a different reality here. He's coming back with a mission of anger and fear. He's coming back with a pair of eternity mirrors. It's a kaleidoscope, it all comes spinning in, is what we learned, just a multicolored shit. Do I speak too soon, or should I gather more from this? I'm not trying to fall, I'd just rather get off this cliff. I'm scared of when we created here. I'm scared of when we created here. I'm scared of what we created here. I'm scared of what we created. He's coming back to assimilate a seraph and kill. He's coming back to assimilate a seraph and kill. He's coming back to assimilate a seraph and kill. There you go.
That's one of my favorites.
You like that?
Yes, that one's.
Lovely.
That was my favorite one on the EP. Go check it out. I really like that one. That one's fun to make.
What's the seraphim? What is that?
He's coming back to assimilate a seraph and kill.
Tell us what that means.
Joseph Smith is coming back from the dead to take the form of an angel of God and kill us all. It was a dream I had, and it scared the shit out of me.
It was your spooky Mormon hell dream.
It was my spooky Mormon dream. Yes.
Have you seen Book of Mormon musical?
I've listened to all the music.
Okay.
And yeah, spooky Mormon
Spooky Mormon hell
yeah.
dream. Well, the audience, Soap and Clay writes lovely.
Oh, thank you.
Zach says thanks.
Thanks, Denny's. Oh man.
All right. Well, that's beautiful. Okay. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Thanks
All
for
right.
listening.
So, so the faith crisis, you hit full faith crisis mode,
Full faith crisis mode.
but Cece says, be careful, go slowly,
Yes.
right?
And
Yeah.
boy, did I go slowly. It was the slowest ripped off Band-Aid of all time.
Really?
Oh, took me so
I
long.
don't know. Some people go more than 2 years. So
That's true. Mine
for
was
you, it
about,
felt like that.
mine was
felt
about
like a
2
long
years.
time,
Year and a
yeah.
half, 2 years.
Oh, that's still long.
It was long.
Yeah.
Could have been.
I told him to go slow, and then I don't want to say by the end of it, but maybe by the time you started going to therapy, because that was really good for you, he was having an existential crisis like every other week, mainly to do with, afterlife, like what's going to become of me as this person that's no longer following the straight and narrow path. And again, I just had to constantly remind him, like, you're a good person. I truly do believe things will work out for people who lead a good life, regardless of whether or not they're part of religion or not. And so, yeah, like Thomas said, the Band-Aid came off really slow. And by the time he did start going to therapy, I was to the point where I was like, we can, like, I don't feel like I was rushing you, but
To go to therapy?
no, just to like come to the conclusion that everything was going to be okay in the end, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was just my mindset that I'd always had, that
If you're a good
the whole
person, you're
the whole
fine.
idea of like the tiers of heaven and like being judged and kind of getting sorted into your different pools of however moral you were in life, like that was really bizarre to me. And he did struggle with that a lot towards the middle of his faith crisis, I think.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I kind of had to keep things moving because he would get really stuck in that like horrible mindset of fear.
Yeah, I was so scared every day because once that faith crisis happened, I knew the church wasn't true. And even knowing, I was still so indoctrinated with guilt, fear, and shame that I wanted to keep going to church, and I wanted to do everything I should be doing. I wanted to please my parents, especially. That was a big one because they had gone through a lot. Our whole family had gone through a lot, and I feel like I owed it to them and I owed it to my entire family to stay in the church. And so when that faith crisis hit in fall of 2018, my heart was out. I was like, this is not true, but it was literally all just deconditioning, I guess you could call it, from then on. So I learned to let go of a lot of things, especially because I knew the consequences, the eternal consequences weren't going to be as severe as I thought, Law of Chastity, I let that one go. And I felt surprisingly, I was like, I don't feel bad.
Feel a little lighter. if
Yeah.
anything.
That's a fun one to let go.
Yeah, it was not easy, but like once I did let go,
It was
it was fine.
it was so hard.
I know, right?
At first, it was just terrible. It was just
yeah.
so difficult. But then I get used to it.
Yeah, I just deal with it now.
No, but that's a big deal. So, okay, wait, you're still at BYU.
I'm at BYU.
So you're still at BYU. You're still under the honor code, and you guys decide to become sexually active, which is what you waited some time, CC, for that.
Time out.
But also, you have to realize you have to hide it now because you could get kicked out of BYU and have your whole your education jeopardized, and you have to hide it from your bishop and lie if you have to go to do a temple recommend interview for any reason. So let's just spend a little bit of time on that for our non-Mormons who have no idea.
Yeah.
What does it mean for a return missionary BYU student to decide to become sexually active with someone he's not married to?
Definitely kicked out of BYU if I got caught. Definitely disfellowshipped. Possibly excommunicated. That was what I was looking at, and I'm like,
which is like Mormon death penalty,
yes.
basically. Yeah.
I was the only reason I was scared is not because of eternal consequences. I was scared because my parents. I didn't want to let them down. I didn't want to let them down because they had, worked so hard to teach me these things, and here I was not following it. And so I knew the church wasn't true, and yet still I held on to that social and the social aspect of and the structure that I was given. I held on to that. I clung to it. And so
real quick, what if somebody says you became sexually active as a way, well, you lost your faith as a way to justify wanting to become sexually active?
Yeah, that was my biggest fear.
Was
a big one.
I was like so hung up on that because I'm like, I didn't want my family to think that CC, okay, this is big for me. I didn't want my family to think that the love of my life was dragging me to hell. And
that's huge.
I didn't admit that to CC. I didn't admit that to my parents, but I finally opened up about a year and a half later in therapy, and I just broke down because I was like, it was totally separate for me because I spent all this time trying to get Cece to come to the church she knows how much of a hard ass I was. Like I was not going to budge. I was not going to budge because I knew how I wanted to live and what I believed. And when that came crashing down, I'm like, well, what do I do now? Does any of it even matter? And, does the Law of Chastity matter? Do the commandments matter? Drinking, smoking, whatever, like going to church, does any of it matter? And, so to anyone that says like you just wanted to sin, you can say that. It's not true. And, I don't think looking into someone's life like that is a very accurate way of, judging them. You just have to know what it's like to go through a faith crisis and to have your beliefs stripped away from you. And that realization for me, after that, it was like, well, it doesn't matter. Maybe sexuality is a healthy thing that should be celebrated with the one you love. And yeah.
Cece, would you have ever would you remember ever having like a explicit conversation? Like, I know that passions are flowing and that it's like biological to just want to have some business time, but would you have ever like had a point where once he lost his belief to make a case, like a logical argument for why it's actually a good and healthy thing? Or would that not have even been something you tried to talk about?
Not ours, just in case.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you wanted to talk about that. How much do you want to go into that?
I mean, you don't have to go like super details, but I'll start talking.
Yeah,
and
you go. Sorry, he's going to kind of answer your question for me, and I'll pick it up.
Yeah, I want you to answer this but like basically, by the time I felt bad, even though I knew the church wasn't true, I still was holding out for a while. It wasn't like night and day. And then by the time my sister's wedding came around, my little sister, which was at the very end of December, we had a conversation at the wedding, and she was like, "What do you think about sexual activity, about sex?" And I was a little hesitant, but it was that trip that I decided that it was okay. Yeah, and you can pick that up. Sorry, I didn't mean to like cut her off.
No, I wanted you to explain what you wanted to in case I said something you didn't want me to.
No, it's fine.
So yeah, like he said, I mean, I'd kind of started to wear him down a couple of months before that, and he was definitely.
You make it sound like you're just like beating me.
You were just a rock, and I was just like beating on you, dude. But so all through that fall, he was already breaking the honor code, and he was already having to be very careful about nobody finding out that we were not being as chaste as you're expected to. But then, yeah, like he said,
somewhere between kissing and sex. Basically.
Yeah. And so, I mean, technically, I don't understand how the Mormons view virginity, like when it's broken and when it's not.
It's weird, man.
Especially on Reddit right now. It's a thing.
Yeah, like I don't know where they draw that line, but I think we had crossed that line without going all the way. But by the end of December, I was like, you know what? Like we've talked so many times about how we feel about each other, what we expect from our futures together, because we do see a future together. And so I was like, why is it so demanded that we wait? You know, like what's the difference between doing it now when we know we love each other and when we're married, if we ever get married, you know, like.
Mother, if you're watching this, I'm so sorry. I love you.
Yeah, we're just bearing all our hair. But yeah, I did get pretty explicit, and I drilled my case home.
She had a notebook, a PowerPoint presentation. This is why it's okay.
When we were at his sister's wedding, and I think he just wanted to get through the temple mostly, and then after that, he was like, you know what, like I'm just gonna let go of it because.
Which, being in the temple, this is not to throw shade on my sister's ceiling. You know, it was beautiful for them, but I did not feel. I didn't feel this.
Didn't feel like you wanted it for yourself.
No, and
you didn't feel like.
No, I didn't feel like I needed the temple in my life, and that was like I went in. And I'm like, why is this everything we're taught to strive for? And
were you disappointed? Was it like let down?
I had seen ceilings before, and every time it's just an old guy.
Describe what it was like. No, okay. Just to reiterate, I'm going to give you cover. This isn't about how much you love your sister. It's not about how much you love her marriage or her partner.
Yeah.
It's not about the day overall. We're talking about the LDS Church's temple wedding ceremony, separate from his incredible love for his sister and her husband and all the family.
I appreciate that.
It's the
thank you for saying that. This is hard to talk about. Being in there, anything related to the temple always disturbed me. Just being there, I just felt like this is so contrived. This is so obviously not of God. And I know that's going to break some people's heart if they're listening, and I'm so sorry, but it just didn't, and I know it felt like that for them, but for me it did not. And
was it the words being said? Was it the sealer?
The sealer, you know, he's just there, you know, he's not celebrating the love of two human beings. He's celebrating the fact that these two people are still in the church and that they're going to go through with, you know, their covenant path. And I compare that to our wedding. We eloped. We were on the beach side, wrote our own vows to each other, and I bawled my eyes out. And I get people bawl their eyes out at ceilings too, but it makes so much more sense to me to have a wedding where I'm making my own covenants to her and she's making her own covenants to me. We're not doing handshakes. We're not in weird robes. We're not going through some contrived ceremony that an old guy is officiating who's never met us before. And so being in that ceremony was a big moment for me, because I was like, this is not what I want. And it really hurts, because I gave my sister a hug in the sealing room, and she says, I hope to see you here one day. And I said, okay, I will, because I had that wall up, and I said, okay, I will, don't worry. And the wall, for listeners now, I mentioned having a wall between my family members. Anytime that they said something I didn't agree with, I would just say, okay, I would just agree and bottle it up. And that's what I did there too, which was super hard, because even now I have a hard time expressing my opinion to my family about the church, because I know it's so sacred for them. The last thing I want to do is tear down their beliefs and make them feel bad. But at what point is it time for me to just be a little more authentic? So yeah, that was hard.
You got it out.
Okay. Yeah.
And yeah, so right after that, I think that was very eye-opening for him as far as our physical relationship. And from there, I feel like it almost got better. Would you agree?
What? Our relationship?
Yeah, just in general.
Everything got better after that, yeah.
You were just better at releasing, I think, after that. Because I feel like that was really the biggest milestone, was because that had been weighing on him. Let's see, his sister got engaged in October, I want to say.
No, it was earlier than that. It was August.
August? Okay. And so that entire time, it's like, okay, you know that they're going to have a temple ceremony. I obviously wasn't allowed in.
Oh, yeah. That's
that wasn't an issue. I sat.
Why not?
I just wasn't worthy. And so I...
Wait, how is it that you weren't, but he was? Oh, I guess you don't have to answer that if there's...
Oh, no. I was not worthy. Let's be clear.
Oh, neither of you were worthy.
So
I shouldn't have gone in.
He had to BS his interview.
I had BS my temple
But they
record.
both could have lied then.
No, because it was obvious that she couldn't be in, because she had slept with people. She had lived with her boyfriend.
Yeah,
Everyone knew
She
she
had
wasn't
never
in.
gone through the steps of
I would have had to go a
repentance.
lot further back than him. And so... I was like,
okay. So people would have known she had had sex that she hadn't have repented for.
Mm-hmm.
So even though you guys were both even though that was long in the past, and you guys were both messing around equally,
Everyone
his
knew.
transgressions were a lot more recent and
invisible.
less-
Invisible,
Yes,
exactly.
exactly.
Isn't that weird?
So
yes,
messed up.
and so I was like, well, your family. I was like, your family knows that I was living with somebody. So I was like, I don't feel like I need to go through the process to be able to go through the temple. Like, I'm okay with it. I'm not offended. I'll just stay outside. And so I literally, like, as Thomas's date, I had to sit in the car for like an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Babysitting all the kids.
Yeah, they left all their kids with me, obviously, because the kids can't go in.
There were like 5 kids.
Yeah, and at the time it was just funny, and I was fine to watch all the kids because they were being super cute and they were doing funny things. But looking back, I'm like, you had to ditch me and leave me in the car because
I'm
I couldn't go
sorry.
through. No, I'm fine with it. No hard feelings whatsoever. But it's just so funny that you know, like, that's what I did for his sister's wedding, was I sat in the car and he went through the temple, but he went through with a super heavy heart because it just felt so wrong, and because he'd had to lie to get there because he was still pleasing his family. And so...
And without you.
I was without my...
And so that had weighed on him for like 6 months because he's like,
Yeah.
I know we're going to have to do it this way. And I was like...
I didn't believe the
That's the way
church
it
was
is.
true. I didn't have my wife with me. The temple ceremony for me is weird, both the sealing and the endowment. And I had lied to get my recommend renewed. And literally...
Your family was like, "Okay, you're next."
And my family was like, "Okay, you're next." It was a rough time.
It was a lot, yeah. And that's what I'm saying. After that, after you got through, I felt like he was a lot better at releasing.
yeah.
And from there, we started to have conversations with family members, which we'll get into.
No, it was a whole year after that.
So
okay.
So pause where you are. I just wanted to say one thing. I ask about sex almost every interview I've ever done, especially in the past several years. And I think most people get it, but some don't. And they write in, "Watch out, why are you so obsessed about sex?" I am not obsessed about sex. I think
The
I'm
Mormon
just a
church
normal.
is obsessed about sex.
What's that?
The Mormon church
Yeah.
is obsessed about sex.
No, I think I am very average, probably in all the ways in terms of sex. But tell me if I'm wrong. Was this a major issue for you guys that weighed on you very heavily for a long period of time? I don't think I'm just making that up. I think it's that the Mormon church is obsessed about sex, but that ends up just this whole temple shame thing about how like what you have to do to be able to go to a wedding of a family member, right? You know, when we talk about Stephen Hassan's bite model, you know, the way that the church controls behavior, and then they control your information and your thoughts, and then use emotion to shame you or make you feel fear. This whole idea of you have to be worthy to go to the temple, but your family member's getting married, so you either have to shape up and pay your tithing and become moral, or everyone's going to know that you're unworthy and wonder why you aren't worthy to be there, you know, or you have to lie to get in. And, you know, just the fact that people are being excluded from what should be this wonderful, marvelous ceremony. Of course, the church has the right to exclude who they want from the temple, but it is super, and I'll just say it, it's super cultish that a sister or a parent or a child is or a loved one, a fiance, girlfriend is excluded from a wedding, you know, and the accompanying. It makes the whisper campaigns like, why isn't Cece there? Well, Cece, well, you know that Cece
It's like,
had a pass.
I had to
you know
just
what
wear
I
it
mean?
like that was my badge for the day.
was
I
your
was like,
scarlet
yep,
letter,
I was
dude.
not. And my parents weren't at my sister's either.
Oh,
we were
that's-
all outside. I remember us all being on the grounds.
Your parents weren't at your sister's wedding, their
They were
own daughter's
not,
wedding.
no. And again, I was like a teenager and I wasn't paying attention to all the little details. But looking back, I'm like, I think that probably made my mom especially so much more sad than she felt like she was allowed to let on, because my sister was just so happy to be going through the temple with her husband. But it's like, you know, you have to, like, you literally have to leave people behind on your wedding day because they're living life differently than you. And it's really, it's
But
interesting.
they're just
and
not
it's
worthy
like,
to enter the house of the Lord, babe. Come on.
yeah, it's,
So the shame and the control, and you have to pay 10% to even go to the temple. So it's also a
Pay
way
to
for
play,
the church to
man.
get money.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's one of the just most egregious, outstanding, one of several really egregious, outstanding things that just has to change. Mormon church, let any family member go to a temple wedding. Don't require money to go to a temple wedding, and don't exclude people in ways that are shaming and make everyone speculate about why they're not there. It's just
Extreme
a really
standards.
cult-like. If you don't want people to call you a cult, abolish this practice. That will get you a long way.
Mormon
Towards
secret
being less
agents
cult-like.
listening to this.
What?
I said Mormon secret agents
Oh,
listening
yeah.
to
They
this.
listen.
You heard the man.
They listen.
Take
We know
note.
you do.
They listen. Absolutely. Anyway, keep going. So I paused you. Keep going. This was a big deal for you guys,
Yeah,
right?
big deal.
I'm not injecting my own issues into your
I feel like
life. Right?
that was kind of the hump that we got up onto, and then from there we still had a lot of things that we needed to work out. But I feel like we were able to take courage a little bit more
for
to
sure.
be like, look, we've already done the worst thing we can do. We had sex like the day after Thomas lied about going through the temple, like just laying it out. And so, yeah, from there it was like, okay, I don't know if we just felt a little more untouchable or if it was just, you know,
Past the point of
that
no
veil
return.
was,
Yeah.
I think we just took that veil down.
took
I
the
mean, mine was
plunge.
already halfway down.
She
but
drugged
then,
me down to hell.
So yeah.
temptress.
And really quickly,
I joke about that. Sorry.
about her being a temptress.
I joke about
You
it,
were very serious before
But
about
it
that
was
not
literally like that was my defense mechanism. We would have to joke about it, or else I would just like, because that's the last thing.
like,
I
what
wanted
if you
people
are
to
a
think.
temptress?
One, I was like, well, that was my thought before, but when I actually stopped believing, I didn't want other people to think that, you know, you were the cause of my faith crisis, because it happened. My crisis happened before we were even dating, so
Yeah.
it
It
just
was just how it happened that I trotted in at that
Yeah.
time. But
So really quickly, one of my favorite stories on Mormon Stories is when I interviewed Natasha Helfer
yeah.
about her high school sexual experience. and how beautiful it was, but how guilt-ridden the church made it.
It was tainted. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm wondering what that was like for you guys. So just because you lose your faith doesn't mean the conditioning all melts away.
No, not at all.
And so I'm wondering, were you guys able to just really enjoy it, or was there like a period where it was awkward or guilt-ridden, or you would have deep remorse, or was the conditioning and wiring not that deep at that point?
For me, I'll answer and then you can go if you have any. Yeah,
no, go for it.
For me, the guilt honestly was before I was doing anything really quote unquote bad. That's where most of my guilt was, because I was still like in, and like if I would like go a little too far, I would feel super bad. But once I actually stopped believing, and we actually did, have sex and do all that, I did not feel super bad about it, which is I'm really happy about. I felt bad for the lying to, or like not lying, but like hiding from my family. That's what I felt bad about.
Yeah, that continued.
Because hiding never really is good.
Feels gross.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Yeah, gross is a good word for it. Like, we both felt like we weren't doing anything wrong at this point, because once he reached that point, he was like, okay, you're right. This is a natural thing. This is a great bonding thing between humans. But to have to hide it feels gross. And so I don't know that I don't want to speak for you. Maybe you felt more guilt than you let on, but it was never so bad that we had any awkward periods, or that we decided to like not do it again.
Yeah.
Like from there, it was, we normalized it in our relationship, which was good.
And did it enhance your relationship?
Oh yeah, 100%. It was great.
After, I don't want to be like, you don't need all the details, but afterwards he was like, okay, that's what I was missing. And I was like, yes, it's a good thing. It really is. Like, people want to make it awkward and uncomfortable and ew, but I'm like, it's a good thing and it's a natural thing. So
keep in mind, when I told her about my faith crisis, she was like, before you leave, or before you do anything, you need to be sure. And we made sure that I was sure that the church wasn't true. It was just getting out of the structure that took so long. So honestly, we enjoyed it. It was good.
How many months or years from the time you started dating till that moment? I'm just curious. How long did you go?
6 months.
6 months.
About 6 months, yeah. Okay. So we make it sound like it was really drawn out, which I think, again, to us, it felt like it was, because we were just trying to work through so much stuff. But in the long, like looking at it now, it was pretty short. We moved pretty fast.
By non-Mormon standards, 6 months is probably quite a long time. If it's
I guess
the person
that's
you end
true.
up marrying, right?
Yeah.
Really quick, I'll share a comment from one of our listeners. Kyle writes, my wife and I chose to not attend my sister's wedding after losing our faith. Everyone was aware that we weren't there. It was a huge topic of conversation, and family members would not let it go. Thanks for sharing, Kyle. We're sorry that happened to you.
That's hard.
That's the hardest.
Go ahead.
It's just such a juicy like piece of gossip in the Mormon community. It's like, oh, so-and-so isn't taking the sacrament, so-and-so isn't in the temple. And then they just like, you shouldn't even be allowed that speculation, but you are, because it's like, okay, they must have done one of these things on this list of no-nos. And so, that's hard. Kudos to them for just choosing not to, though.
Yeah, that's
Kyle.
hard.
It's integrity. I think there's justification either way, because you could argue that it's an unjust exclusion.
Yeah.
So I'm not throwing shade on anyone that decides not to be honest. And, my brother chose to not be in his daughter's wedding for no other reason than that he felt like it might be dishonest for him.
Yeah.
To, he didn't feel good about it at the time. And that's to be a dad and just to choose not to be
super
your own
hard.
Daughter's wedding. And
both
then
are really hard.
There's no sin, but then to create speculation in everyone else's mind as to why you're not there. Yeah. Did he cheat? Did he have a porn problem?
I know, they just get to run wild with their thoughts, and it's like they're not even going to ask you; they're just going to assume.
Mm-hmm. No, they're not going to ask you.
So we get engaged in January, and then we elope in March.
January of 2019.
Yeah.
And why'd you elope and not? You want to follow Joseph Smith's example, basically.
Right. Well, she always liked the idea of an elopement, and I again, with her PowerPoint. She had her PowerPoint and her books open, and she gave her presentation on why we should elope. And I was like, that sounds awesome. Let's do it.
It was another point. I mean, you make it sound like you were gung-ho now because hindsight's 2020 and we would not do it any other way. But this was another point of me having to convince him a little bit that it's okay to do things, be a little unorthodox because, again, he just had the issue of family. Like, hey, my family's going to want to see us, even if it's a civil wedding. But I was like, it's our day and I'm the bride. And I have always loved the idea of eloping. Mm-hmm. And so I did have to kind of convince you on that too. It didn't take super long at all.
I was on board. I really was.
Yeah, because I was like, once I named the pros, not having to plan, saving money, blah, 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 the intimacy, like it really didn't take long. He was like, okay, that sounds great. And so from there, we... Did
you go to Vegas?
We planned it really quickly. No, actually we didn't. That would have been really fun. We actually had a photographer reach out to us first about doing a styled elopement shoot.
Yeah, and like as models, not as actually people.
Yeah, he was like, I just need you as like content or whatever. And we told him that we felt like it would be dishonest to just like get this entire photo shoot for free because it was around the time that we actually wanted to elope. And so we were like, if we act it out for him, for his content, we need to, pay him so because it's our actual elopement and these are the only photos we're going to have. Like this is going to be it for us. And he was amazing. Like he let us take his dad's boat out on Lake Powell. This would have been in March that we did this, correct?
Yeah, it was March.
And so there was just no one else there because it was kind of the off season. And I just borrowed a dress from a dress shop per the photographer's request because
he had connections.
Yeah, and he took care of the bouquet. He brought a really cool rug for the aesthetic of the photos. And then we... found
a secret beach.
Like a little bay. Yeah, it was really beautiful. And we did write our actual vows, what we wanted to say to each other to make it an official ceremony. Well, I guess we're getting ahead of ourselves. We were already married at this point.
Well, we did the judge. We had to do the on paper.
Yeah.
We got married at a judge's house.
Because the photographer couldn't have officiated us.
Yeah.
But that was just 2 weeks before?
Yeah, it was just right before. But like the actual elopement ceremony that we did for ourselves was, on a little
So your parents didn't know you were eloping?
They knew we were going to, but not when. And so
we did kind of jump, or we kind of dropped that on them the day that we made it official with the judge at his house.
We just sent him a picture of the certificate.
Yeah, and we were like, we did it, which I think it took them by surprise, but...
What went through their mind?
They were my family was not happy.
What goes through an Orthodox Mormon parent's mind when their kids say we're eloping?
We're pregnant. Are they pregnant? Which we weren't. We just wanted to elope. Yeah. They were.
Because it's not a temple marriage.
Not a temple marriage.
That's like the Eagle Scout equivalent for Mormon parenting. If your kids get go on a mission and then marry in the temple, you've been a good parent.
Yep.
If the kid doesn't go on the mission and or doesn't get married in the temple, you sucked as a parent.
My mom. I've actually talked to my mom about that, and I try to tell her so much. Mom, you're amazing. You're the best woman ever. Like I wouldn't have it any other way. But there's a lot of. She's come to me a couple different times about how she thinks she failed in certain aspects. I'm like, no, you did not. Fail.
And that's just more like unfair church conditioning. Even with his family being completely in, like how are they still being guilted? Just because their children happen to choose different paths. Mm-hmm. Like all of that is so complex and weird to me.
And it also makes what should be an amazingly happy day, your Orthodox Mormon parents are kind of viewing it as a disappointment.
Yeah. There's always that taint on just everything.
Yeah, there's a little taint on every single little
thing.
Which,
I mean, we were so happy to do it and we don't regret it. And
bawled my eyes out. It was great.
We don't feel like we should have done a civil marriage and invited guests and all of that. But there's just always that
I just have to say that
we made our parents sad. No, that's it. Is that parents are sad. We did it this way.
Well, that's the other thing. It's not just parents. It's like if you are Mormon and all your parents and siblings and grandparents and aunts and uncles are all Mormon, then when you get married not in the temple, that's everybody's like, what a disappointment.
I know.
So that I can see why you would want to just elope. Then you don't have to go through, look at everybody in the eye as they all think of, as you're wondering
They're expecting an
in their
invitation.
head that they're all disappointed and saying, well, you guys clearly had sex. You guys clearly had sex and are probably pregnant. And that's
Yeah,
why
like, say what
there's
you
no
will about
temple
me.
wedding, right?
Yeah.
And
Who wants to go through that?
I know, like that's not fun.
Was that part of it maybe subconsciously?
Oh no, that was yeah, you're not overstepping your bounds. That was definitely part of it.
I'm
I
sure
was
they were like,
I don't
"Oh,
want to
boy."
deal with this. Like, let's just go.
Yeah.
By the end, because I had talked to every single one of my family members, and like even telling some people that I was engaged, like, and that I wasn't going to do a temple marriage. I could hear the disappointment in their voice, and it was really sad. I'm like, you should be happy. You should be jumping for joy.
Spinning, like, okay, why?
Yeah, you should be jumping for joy that I found the love of my life and I'm going to get married. But not it. Some people I told kind of gave that vibe, and it was kind of sad for me.
Which is really funny. It's ironic because we did get that impression from some family members, like, oh, why are you doing it this way? This is, abnormal for us. We were expecting something different. And then we also had issues with our family members wanting to be there and feeling like they were excluded.
Which I get that part. I really do.
I get it too. But at the same time, those same family members went through a very exclusive temple ceremony.
Right?
And so it's like, where are you coming from if we don't want to have anybody there? Just so that everybody's on the same page, like, hey, we're not excluding one person over the other. We just want it to be us two. And they get upset, like, why don't you want us there? And it's like, well, why didn't you want, if it's your own mom or your own sister, like, why weren't they there? And it's because you let this, this organization dictate who could be at your wedding and your wedding list. Like,
yeah, that's really good.
That's ironic.
Super.
Wow, that's good. I got to write that down.
Yeah, that's a solid one.
Keeper.
Nice. I mean, this, again, it's not to throw shade on any of our family members, but it is a good point. Like, we know that was the thing for you guys to do. We don't blame you for getting sealed in the temple, but you got to admit it's an exclusion, very exclusive.
Turn the tables.
Yeah, turn the tables a little bit. Try to see it from our point of view. I definitely see it from theirs, and I don't blame them for it. So,
yeah.
Okay. We're getting we have a comment that I just want to read. Alan Child Videos writes, the church allows for weddings to be performed outside the temple so all family members can attend. Then those that want go to the temple another time can do so. So this is sort of a believing Orthodox Mormon saying you guys are making the church look bad.
Okay. I'm happy to address that.
Okay, because I want to jump on that too.
Okay,
but I'll let you go first.
Okay. First of all, I get what you're saying. They do allow that, but that's a recent development. In 2019, I believe, before 2019, you had to wait a year if you did not immediately get sealed. And even if
to do like a civil ceremony.
To do a civil ceremony, yeah. But a lot of people get sealed first and then just do like a ceremony after. That's great. If that works for you, cool. But at the end of the day, like, that's not the wedding we wanted. And that's not the wedding that most people choose. Most people get sealed, have a reception, and call it good. And
there's still that exclusivity to be like, okay, everybody's at this ceremony, but then we're going to go sneak over here and do another ceremony where some people are still not allowed because, you have to do it through the temple sealing. Does that make sense? Like there's still
there's still an element of being
weird
exclusive.
That's supposed to be the church's way of saying, okay, we are including all people, but if that was the case, then they would just do away with, only allowing certain people into the temple for the ceremonies. It would just be like, okay, you don't need to have two ceremonies. You can have one and everybody's allowed. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, my answer was going to be, number one, what about the 180, 190 years where people were excluded? This is just a change in the past couple of years. Yeah. That needs to be accounted for. Don't act like that isn't the reality for like almost 200 years of Mormon families. Mm-hmm. But then the second thing is that still in 2021, that's viewed as an inferior choice. So most Orthodox
people don't do
Mormons
that.
by far don't select that option and choose to exclude so many people because I think it's viewed as like, yeah, well, that's what the lower class, less devout Mormons do.
Like they have too
the
many
two
family members
ceremonies.
that aren't allowed in.
I've been excluded. You know, obviously I'm excluded from all Mormon weddings because the church excommunicated me. But I've seen several weddings in my family where that option to this day has never been chosen. So
I didn't know that
that's
was
like
a thing.
That's like a marketing thing. That's not in reality an opening up.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that we have believing listeners, Orthodox listeners listening. I just don't think the point you're making really honestly, accurately nullifies our concern about the shame-based exclusionary temple marriage policies that are still very much in effect today. That's what I think.
Maybe one day in the future, the culture will shift and the main ceremony will be one that all can attend.
Everybody.
But I don't see that happening anytime soon. Because what do they want to be there for? They want to be there for the moment you get married or the moment you get sealed, and having just a one-off, like, separate ceremony. Oh, this is just
Almost
for,
like a secondhand ceremony.
Yeah. Oh, this is for everyone else
Make
that didn't get
everyone
to see
feel
the
better.
real ceremony. Yeah. So let's move on though. Yeah.
So really quickly, I'll just read a comment or two.
Yeah, for sure.
So H.J. Heather Jane writes, the worst thing is not being able to be with my sister on her wedding day. She's my best friend and I was matron of honor, but it felt basically for picture's sake and I felt excluded.
Jeez, yeah.
That's really hard.
All right. So we talked about your elopement and,
Yes.
and all the shame and everything, but also how beautiful that moment was for you.
Yeah. We still 10 out of 10 recommend.
Oh yeah. Anyone that's getting married,
We don't
just
regret
elope.
it.
It's so much better. Yeah.
So what came next in your story? And yeah, was there any aftermath or collateral damage?
They actually chilled out. My family chilled out.
They
We had a
really
little
came to terms
ceremony.
with it well.
We had a little reception a few months later where we invited close family and friends, just really small, low key, and they came to terms with it, and it was just fine. So yeah,
So it was good.
it was good. Yeah, they're fine with it now. They love Cece. My family does. I love her too. Everyone loves Cece.
That's good. That makes it easier.
Oh yeah.
All right. So what came next? You guys you guys elope, which means you get married, and you're still at BYU at that point.
I am still at BYU. Yeah.
He is so close to graduating, and I have to like push his butt out the door every day because he's just ready to be done. It's gotten harder, I think, his senior year with everything going on. Like he's obviously not in, but he's attending the church's school. And again, the whole issue with the honor code, like that has to stay under wraps until he's graduated. So we are into like March, April now. So he's literally like, a month from graduating?
Yeah.
Really close.
Holding on by a thread.
That was a really good milestone too. It's when he was finally done with school.
Yeah, felt like a huge weight was lifted off of my shoulders. So I graduated, and very soon after that, in May, towards the end of May, we decided that we wanted a baby.
Yeah, so
Soon.
It's super soon.
Yes.
Just so that everyone who had suspicions that you were pregnant before the elopement would that would fulfill their projections
just
upon
tease
you.
him a little bit. Yeah, we had originally, because up until now, I'm sure everybody has gathered, we're moving pretty fast as far as, I jumped into a relationship right after my last relationship ended, and then we went pretty fast as far as physical relationship. His faith crisis is just like on the fast track. And so when we did get married, we were like, we should wait at least a year, if not longer, to even start talking about kids, because we maybe wanted to do like a 1-year anniversary honeymoon kind of trip, because we didn't really do that. We just did a fun weekend getaway. So yeah, kids were not in the picture when we first got married. And the reason why that changed so quickly, only 2-3 months later, was because my mom was diagnosed with cancer. And at the time, that just triggered me her mother actually passed away from cancer as well before she was able to meet my little half brothers that I have, like right before. My mom was pregnant when her mother passed away. And so in my mind, I was like, I can't have that happen to me, which I obviously jumped the gun. My mom, disclaimer, my mom is in remission now. She's doing really well. And so, we didn't have that loss in our family that I was so afraid of. But in the moment, I remember I was crying to Thomas one night and I was like, we have to have a baby that my mom can meet. And
how do you say no to
Thomas,
that?
yeah, like, okay, how do you say no to that when you're, that's why your wife is asking for kids?
I was down though.
Yeah, and
I was
so
a little scared,
we
but I
kind
was
of jumped
down.
off that cliff really fast, but I'd been around babies since I was 12 with my 2 younger brothers. All my sisters had babies at this point, and I'd had a lot of exposure to them. And so I felt really pretty good about, that's one thing, being as non-Mormon as I was my entire life, I've always felt that I would do well as a young mother, which is pretty common in Mormonism. And so
Definitely fit the mold there.
yeah, that was one thing that I was like, I can do this. This is something that I can do. And so
Yeah. And like, other than obviously Cece's personality, as you've seen it, I knew she would be such a good mother, and she is. And man, I'm so happy that you actually that we had a kid as early as we did. I have literally no regrets.
Yeah.
If we could have our baby right here in the studio, you guys wouldn't have any regrets either. He is so cute.
He really is. He's the light of our lives. And we got pregnant with him. His name is Abel. Really soon after I asked Thomas if we could start trying.
Pretty sure it was the first try.
Yeah. So
Sooner than I anticipated.
yeah. So we didn't even have time to really backtrack and decide if maybe I was jumping the gun. We just had to move forward from there. I want to say you were going to therapy all through my pregnancy. Is that correct?
Nope.
I'll let you take the reins.
Okay.
Because from here, your faith crisis kind of evolves into something different with the thought of being a dad.
Yeah. So I knew I was going to be a dad. This was in the summer of 2019. And it brought up a whole nother slew of questions, like how are we going to raise our kid? I was still in the midst of my faith crisis. I didn't believe, but I was still in structurally, and because of my family
still
pressure.
Going to church at this point.
We were still going to church every week, even though I didn't believe. It was really weird. It was a weird time.
It was.
But we would talk over and over again about how we wanted to raise Abel, and I was depressed, kind of in denial, just because I was so conflicted about what I wanted to do with, as a father, because there's so much pressure from my parents. They expected the baby blessing. They expected me to be a righteous priesthood holder, to to set the example for my son, and I knew that wasn't going to happen. So we spent most of her pregnancy trying to figure out what we were going to do there. And then
And for non-Mormons who don't know, talk about the baby blessing. I mean, we kind of already covered the fact that not getting married in the temple is a disappointment. However, what then an Orthodox Mormon parent would feel would be, okay, they had sex before they were married, so they weren't worthy to go into the temple. So now the disaster of an unfortunate subpar marriage happened. Again, this is the Orthodox Mormon parent standpoint. But they can wait a year, and then after a year, they'll get married and they'll get sealed in the temple, so they can go ahead and still get sealed. And then when any babies come,
born in the covenant,
they'll be born in the covenant where they'll get their baby blessing, which makes them a member of the church. It'll be this happy family occasion. And so we'll have redemption, where we'll get our children back on track, back on the covenant path. Their children will still be a part of the deal, and the one eternal round seal of eternal family togetherness will not be broken. And so there won't be any empty chairs. That's what your parents are.
Out.
They were banking on that.
Yeah,
100%.
because we'd even told them, okay, so now we've just eloped. We obviously didn't do the temple sealing, but I do think that I want to say they asked Thomas about it. And at that point, we were still going to church every Sunday. Thomas felt that he was really out in his heart, but we were like, maybe this is just a phase we're going through and something will happen to us to really help us get back on track, if you will. And so we told his parents that we were actually considering doing a temple sealing as like a 1 or 2 year anniversary milestone event. And that gave them a lot of comfort, I think, because, for us to not get sealed in the temple initially gave them a lot of fear. But then we were like, oh, we're just doing it a little out of order, but we're still going to go through. Gave them reassurance that you weren't completely out.
Even though I was in my heart.
Yeah.
It was literally just
when in
to please
reality,
them.
we were just playing with the idea of a temple sealing as an anniversary thing, just in case something should happen that we realized we'd been in the wrong for the last year. But
yeah, it's like,
of course that didn't happen. All through my pregnancy, we were like, by the time my 9-month mark rolled around and we were really close to having Abel, I think we'd completely thrown out the idea of doing the temple sealing, and we just hadn't told his parents that yet. And so in their minds, like you said, they had 2 things going for them still, or we had 2 things going for us still as their children, and that was to do a temple sealing as an anniversary and then to bless the baby.
Mm-hmm. So the time came around for the pregnancy, and Cece
For the birth, you mean?
Yeah, for the birth. And Cece wanted to do totally natural birth, no medications. I'll let you take this over.
Yeah.
But that didn't quite.
Yeah. Again, I've been around a lot of babies and birthing in my life. And so I definitely wanted to follow suit after my sisters and try the natural, try the, the water labor, all of that.
Yoga ball, all sorts of cool stuff.
But 37 weeks rolled around and they did an ultrasound and found out that he was breech and his head was way up in my ribs, which by 37 weeks, they want him like down in my pelvis. You can even be dilated at that point. And so we kind of watched over the next couple of weeks to see if he would flip on his own. But at 37 weeks, when they initially realized he was breech, they just scheduled me for a C-section. Mm-hmm. And we did end up going through with the C-section because we tried a couple different procedures to get him flipped. It didn't happen.
Didn't work.
And by the time the morning came around that we had the C-section scheduled, we were just like ready to meet him and to have him. So we were like, yeah, let's go through with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked out.
It worked out.
It was a whirlwind and it was not my plan, but it worked out.
Mm-hmm. She was awake during the whole thing and I got to watch too. I was over the curtain, just saw the whole thing. It was nuts. Crazy. If you've ever seen a C-section, it's nuts. Funny thing about that though, why that's important is because the umbilical cord was wrapped around Abel's neck 3 times, which if we tried to do a normal birth, that would have been catastrophic. And when we got back into the room with him, my mom talked about how she had a vision that the umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck 3 times, and that is what ended up happening. And so that was a pretty crazy experience. Again, maybe she's just in tune with the universe or with this, if there is a God, then something.
It's interesting because to her, that vision was definitely granted by Heavenly Father. Whereas to us, we think about it a lot. We're like, okay, we still find ourselves spiritual, I would say, just not religious.
Her more than me.
Yes, me a little bit more. And so, yeah, we revisit that often, like what... I guess that's still just part of the process that we're going through. Part of our journey is like, how do some people still have those like psychic tendencies or, revelations that I feel like your mom would make a better prophet, honestly, than some. But it's interesting to think about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But because it was a C-section, it went well.
Yep.
And he was delivered safely.
Healthy boy, Abel Thomas Stokes.
Thank you, science and modern medicine.
Right?
Yeah.
That wouldn't have worked out so well a couple decades ago.
Yeah.
So let's see. This is big. We had been talking about how we wanted to raise Abel, and we were in the hospital. We had to stay a few days, and Cece was taking a nap, and I was holding Abel, just looking at him, and he was like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I had been bawling my eyes out all day. And I was just holding him, and we had a moment of peace. And the most real spiritual experience I could ever describe happened to me. And it just dawned on me as I was looking at him in that quiet room, I was like, I'm not going to raise you in this church. I'm not going to make you be a part of this. I'm not going to subject you to the guilt, fear, and shame that I experienced. And that was a game changer. And from there forward,
We knew we weren't going
we
back.
knew we were never going back. And we haven't been to church since before the birth. And we haven't, honestly, I haven't looked back with a single bit of regret since then. That was a huge moment for me as a father. And then I told Cece about it. I think it was a while later that I told you.
It was a little more recently, yeah.
Yeah.
He kept that to himself for a while.
It was a real special moment.
Just recently, it was your friend Lauren, right?
Yeah.
Like I met, she said that her having a baby was the impetus to her faith crisis, like the real
Crazy.
one, because
Crazy.
she's just like, I don't
You
want to
can't
raise
raise
this
a
baby
kid
in
this
this church.
way, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her that's one of the less common reasons people cite for deciding to leave the church. Several people in the comments said that they connected or related to or also felt those same things. And so now you knew Lauren, but also you join her as basically saying the birth of your child was the beginning of the end. And that's
Absolutely.
so interesting because for me, I had my kids before I had my faith crisis, and I had already raised them for 10 or 15 years in the church. And so for me, it was like, how will I be able to ever raise my kids outside of Mormonism?
Yeah.
That was what I was feeling. Like, you can't raise a happy, healthy, normal kid without the church. And Cece's grinning at me a little bit on that. But you felt the opposite. You're like, there's no way in H I'm raising Abel
Absolutely.
in this church.
Yeah, there is no
That's
way.
how it was
I
for
think
you.
while I was still pregnant and his faith crisis was more centered around fatherhood, he was like you, where he was like, I think we might need the church. Maybe I'm speaking for you here.
No, that's how I
like
felt.
maybe we do need the church to raise a happy, healthy family. But then as soon as he did see him in physical form, he was like, no, that would be corruption,
Yeah,
like
he's way
we've
too
got to do
pure.
it differently. So
I'm not going to taint him
it was
with
funny how quickly that switched just as soon as he was born, because even up until
It was day and
delivery,
night.
Thomas was so nervous, and I was like, I think it's going to be okay once you see him for the first time. And it really was like flip of a switch. He was like, okay,
Instantaneous.
this sets it in concrete
Yep.
that you are officially ex-Mormon.
Yes, absolutely. We didn't cover the bishop's interview. I don't know if you wanted to go back and do that.
About what?
Me and her worthiness interview to bless my child.
That was just kind of funny.
just awkward and weird. Yeah.
Tell the story really quick.
Okay. Speed version. We went, I knew I was going to have to bless Abel, and she was pregnant. And so we were like, maybe we should be like, quote unquote, worthy to do so. Yeah. So we,
This is back when you were thinking about whether or not to do it.
yes. And so we visited the bishop, and the first thing,
I guess this would be the second bishop's interview I've ever had where I have to confess all my
so we,
my transgressions.
yeah, we confessed having
after I was an adult and married, which is really bizarre.
You confessed what?
premarital sex.
To a bishop after you'd been married.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then he was
and
like,
I was pregnant, which
She was
is the funniest thing. I was like, okay, yeah, we've had sexual relations.
the fruit of our labor.
And I'm like, do I look like I regret it? I'm sitting here with a big old baby belly, and it was very bizarre to me. And as soon as we left, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, we have to tell this.
What did he say?
He was like, I can tell you feel remorseful, Thomas, even though I didn't really, but I was definitely I understood the gravity of it.
He's acting a little more penitent. For sure.
And then he was like, I think I can see that you're penitent, Thomas, but Sierra, I think we need to work on you a little bit more. Yeah. It's because she was like, she just had that face, that sassy face the whole time.
It was probably a little bit of my body language and just the way that I did convey myself. But
What were you feeling as you were in that position?
Again, I just felt like it was none of his business. And so it's like when somebody's just prying you for information that you're you're not privy to tell them, but they're acting like it's their job to know. And so
And you're confessing that when you had sex as a teenager or as a young adult.
I mean,
I
technically you were confessing that too,
yeah,
right?
I think I did mention that I had been, because I think that's almost what he touched on more than us having premarital sex, was that I had sex before even Thomas, because, you know, best case scenario is that we had premarital sex, but then at least we got married, right? Whereas, and I've been his only partner, and then, you know, looking at me, I'm like, okay, he hasn't been my only partner. I've been doing this for a while, and now I'm supposed to just like, even though it's in my past and I don't regret any of it, but I also don't like spend any time thinking about it. I'm supposed to like have a 6-month repentance process. I'm like, no, that part of my life is done. That chapter is closed.
Did he say did he basically put you on probation?
He was acting like we needed to, what did he say? We needed to start paying tithing.
He said a matter of months.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
No, literally the
money.
first thing.
First thing, I need the money. Show me the money.
Yeah,
was the
he was
first
like,
thing.
start paying your tithing. He wanted us to get more involved in the church activities. And then I think he did throw out a date, like, okay, you're looking at being able to bless this far out, or, you know, go through the temple this far out. And so, yeah, it was like, okay, I have to, you know, revisit all of these things that I don't even see as transgressions before I can bless the baby that's in my stomach right now. And it was just very odd. And I think it did make me kind of mad. And so
after that,
I came across kind of aggressive, and he was like, okay, Thomas, you're chill. Cece, you're not. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not chill. I've never been chill about bishop interviews. So that was kind of funny that we had that experience, and then we didn't follow through with it. I told him, I was like, I don't want to start paying tithing. I've never paid tithing in my life.
I was on board at that point because I was just doing it to get the green card from the bishop.
We jumped through the one hoop, and then we were like, we're not going to do it anymore.
Yeah, let's not do that again. Yeah.
So that was just kind of a funny story we skipped over. But
Was that part of what made you decide not to bless your baby, honestly?
Yeah, kind of.
yeah, it's very off-putting that this guy, you know, he was nice enough, but it's like he is some random stranger. We just moved into the ward. We don't know him from Adam, and he's like, okay, this is your first step towards doing the right thing for your unborn baby. You know, it's like they're given so much jurisdiction where they just shouldn't have it. And it's like, where do you get off? What are you doing? So I do think that was kind of a stepping point as well for us, big we didn't want to be told how to raise our kid and what we needed to do. That is so silly if you think about it. I know it's not silly when you're in, but when you're out, it's like, okay, I can't take this little crust of bread. I can't have this little sip of water, and that's going to make it all better. But it's like, I don't know.
It was weird.
It comes off kind of childish.
It is super
almost.
weird. You're adults, you're married, you're there, and they're going to try and like humiliate you. And it's just so, this is why I mention it every single time. Shame, sexual shame is part of the Mormon business model. It's literally the axle around which the wheels of the church turns. And there's no greater testament or testimony to that than the fact that as soon as you repent for sexual shame, his response is, give us money, start serving more in the church, and we may give you something in return. What that sets up is you now are broken and bad and fallen, and you're not going to be made clean until I, your bishop, your church leader, tells you you're clean. And we need to humble you and humiliate you so that now you're broke. You're kind of psychologically broke, where now you owe us for the rest of your life. You better not, and you better not ever do that again.
They create the shame. They create the shame, then equate it to Satan. That's why you feel icky. It's because it's Satan in your life. And then they give you the solution. Luckily, Cece
that they create. They give you solutions to the problem they create, which is it's all made up. I'm just going to say that right now. It's all made up. Really they present themselves as the solution to the problem they made up. And then ask for money. You know?
Yes.
Cece never bought into that whole cycle, so she saw right through it, and she was like, nope. And I, of course, did, and I was like on the fence about it. But anyway, that's that story.
I have to say, Cece, you're smarter than all of us.
Yes,
probably
she is.
99% of the people I've interviewed on Mormon Stories. See, you know, Michael Code, you know, like Grant Palmer, Michael Quinn, you're smarter than all of them. Really? At age 16.
No, nice.
Yeah,
seriously. I'm saying here, Cece Stokes is the smartest. Oh, wait, I have to look in the camera. Cece Stokes is the smartest person I've ever interviewed on Mormon Stories podcast. Sorry, 1,495 hours of other people interviewed. Cece Stokes is the smartest I've ever interviewed. That's it.
I'm honored.
There you have
I'm
it.
very
I'm
honored.
dropping the mic. Drop the mic, Cece. Drop the mic. She
Drop
drops the mic.
Drop it. There you go.
All right, you win.
So yeah, I feel like that.
That sums it
I
up,
mean,
right?
we came up to where our family found out, a couple of family members found out about the TikTok, and I feel like that's been the most recent development. So now we're up to date, and
Now we're just trying to build our own spirituality, build it from the ground up. She's a lot more spiritual than I am. We're doing, we're trying different things, trying to figure out what resonates with us. For me, it's nature. For her, it's, I don't know, you can talk about that if you want.
like manifestation.
Manifestation.
The universe has your back more so than just
yeah.
like one single being.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's where we're at right now, just trying to navigate that, figure out what we believe.
So are you guys, do you still identify as Christian? Not sure?
Non-Christian for
I
sure.
would say no.
Yeah, not Christian.
Yeah.
For me, I found this term from one of my friends that also left the church. If you're listening, you know who you are. I feel like I'm a hopeful agnostic.
Hopeful agnostic.
Yep. I hope there's something out there. That'd be nice if there was. There very well could be, but it's not Christianity, and it's certainly not Mormonism.
And I think one of the most common comments I get are from Christians that are like, I'm so mad that you ex-Mormons give up. Why do you abandon Christ when you lose, just because the church is a fraud and Joseph Smith was a fraud and the Book of Mormon wasn't true? Why do you have to let that infect Jesus? Jesus still lives. Stick with Jesus. What would you tell my evangelical Christian listeners?
We have some ex-evangelical friends. You know who you are. And they've been through the exact same thing that we have. And it's so apparent that there are just as many problems with Christianity in general as there are with
It's
Mormonism.
across the board. Our parallels are really
Creepy.
Yeah, it's like uncanny. Two different religions, but it's like the same. It's the same story. Yeah,
Same
like
story.
none of it's original. They're all they're all playing the same game of shame and manipulation, and so yeah.
Bible, Book of Mormon. You want to talk historicity? Let's go there.
I mean, Christians will say, well, at least there really was a Jerusalem and there really was.
That's a good point.
there really were Jews, like there Zarahemla and Nephi.
Can't argue with that, right? So that happened, and I think it would be a good time for a song. This song is called Free, and it's about my wife and my son and how much I love them and how much of a role they played in helping me heal.
Any lyrics to listen out for?
No, I don't think so. I mentioned the one to bring us hell during the night. That's referring to Abel trying to get him to sleep and him waking us up.
Makes a lot of references to those apparently.
Anyway, am I good to go? Yeah. Okay. So this song's called Free. Let me just adjust this real quick. Okay. I'm inside of it. I never slept the way I do with you. And I'll be kind to him. You can't imagine half the things I dare to sacrifice for something brand new. You're my brand new. Oh. That I'm absorbing from your body is a pleasant sight as we listen for the one to bring us hell during the night. During the night, so come what may, during the night. Oh, inside of it, I can't believe the way that I used to. And I'm behind a bit, So help me grow into the one I love before my days are numbered, one too few. Let go of your truth and after all this time, fretting all the things I'll never be. Like, who are you and what am I? Do we amount to anything? Give me freedom, give me focus that can take away my soul. Give me anything but here I've memorized these lines before. Of it, I couldn't think of anyone but you, and I can't hide from it. The planet speaks to me in prophecies. There's no one else on earth I'd rather choose, and I'll be with you. Till I'm free from this. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. That's so beautiful. It's so nice to have the music.
Oh, yeah, it's fun to play.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, very fun to play. Anyway, where to from here?
What are you thinking, Cece?
I just really like that song. I was still lingering on it.
What do you love about it?
Is it conceited if I say it's about me? I told Thomas I wanted him to write a song for me and then for him to just also include Abel in it. I really loved that.
Yeah.
And he's only been playing that one more recently, so I'm just still obsessed with it. Like when you hear a new favorite song for the first time, you have to overplay it for a while, right?
Thanks. Thanks, babe. Appreciate
welcome.
that. Yeah, so fatherhood was fantastic. As soon as he was born, I had a sense of, purpose, resolve to be myself. We told my family we weren't doing the baby blessing. And
I think that really woke them up.
That's when I told them about my faith crisis, because I was like, we're not doing a baby blessing. This is who I am. This is what I believe. And it was hard for them, very much so.
Let me just jump in there really quick. So this is, I think that, I have this has become a full-time job for me, just supporting Mormons in faith crisis and leaving the church. And there are lots of things that are hard: spirituality, raising kids, marital relationships, lots of stuff. By far the hardest thing people deal with is whether or not to come out to their parents, and if they do, how. That's the biggest thing. Of all the things, that's the biggest thing. And And there's a lot to be said for that. But so many people like would rather stay silent and never come out to their parents and literally just wait till their parents die. And in some cases hide or live a double life or live a lie because they're so terrified to come out to their parents. Now, can you guys relate to that? Does that sound...
That was my plan, yeah.
So talk about for someone who's never been Mormon or for someone who wants to have a cathartic moment of like connecting with you, why in the world, like if I can't imagine a Lutheran or a Presbyterian like saying, oh, I'm not going to go to church anymore and having it be like the most traumatic thing in their lives to have to tell their parents that. I can see their parents going, who cares? You know, that's no big deal. But in Mormonism, that was my Midwestern.
That was really good. Yeah. Loved it.
But for you guys, it's a huge deal, or at least for you. So can you talk our non-Mormon listeners and those who want to feel some catharsis? Can you talk them through that?
Yeah, the whole point of the church is so families can be together forever. So that when you get sealed in the temple, it's expected that as long as you guys are faithful to your covenants and faithful to the gospel and the church, you will all end up in the highest kingdom of heaven together for all eternity. And when one person strays from that, you are breaking up your family. The rest of them will be together, but not you. And for, a tight-knit family like I have, that was extremely difficult for me to break the news that we weren't going to be together in heaven, even though I'm not sure on an afterlife right now, but I believe that if there is one, we're going to be together no matter what. But they don't believe that. And I think they're holding out on some mercy that God might have for me. But in general, it's absolutely devastating for parents and for siblings to hear that you won't be together with your brother, who I have a special relationship with all my siblings, being the middle child. And it was hard for all of them to hear. Tears, I think everyone I spoke to cried at one point.
Let me ask you, so for those who are on the edge about whether or not to come out or to disclose, there's a lot to consider there, and there are different ways to do it.
Yeah.
What was it that made you decide, what pushed you over the edge to actually disclose to them you had lost your faith? Because many people would just like lie, hide it, go ahead and bless the baby, even go to church on Sunday, lie for their temple recommends, live whatever life they want to live, have a beer, hide the coffee. This sounds crazy to non-Mormons, but hide the coffee maker.
I hid wine once when my parents came over, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of people just take that route of hiding or lying, and there's no judgment here. Like, everybody's got to figure this out for themselves, whether to do it, when to do it. And in fact, Margie and I have an episode on this tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
Talking about the specific issue. But having said all that, what pushed you over the edge to decide not to hide, not to lie, not to live a double life, and to face that moment of disappointing, making your parents disappointed in themselves, and in making them disappointed in you?
I had already hid things for about a year, right? Yeah, it was about a year. And I hated it. Cece could tell how it was tearing me apart. And when the baby blessing was coming up, I'm like, I'm not doing this again. Like, I did the temple thing once, and I hated it. And I'm not going to do this again, especially where I have to get up in front of hundreds of people and bless my baby that he'll stay faithful in the church. There's no way I'm doing that. Why?
You said there's no way I'm doing it, but why?
Because I was tired of not living true to myself.
What does that do to you? Can you describe?
It creates such a split and a tear in your reality and in your emotions and in every part of your life. I was depressed and anxiety like every day. I had this terrible feeling in my chest every single day of my life. Cece knows. It was literally constant. It would stop when I went to bed, and when I woke up in the morning, I'd have a few minutes before it started again. And it was awful. I hated it, and I was done with it. I wanted it to be over. So that's when I decided to not do the baby blessing, and then I actually told my oldest brother first, the one that's married to her sister, And
how'd you tell him? Because there's different ways to tell.
Yeah, we were just packing up. I was helping him move, and then my dad mentioned the baby blessing to both of us since he had a kid.
They've got a baby that's about 6 weeks younger than Abel.
And so that we were thinking about doing like, joint blessing, same
kind
day.
Of backed into a corner.
Yeah,
like,
and
are
so
you going to do it
like,
at the same time?
Are you going to do it at the same time, or what's going on? And I was like, yeah, we'll figure it out. And then my brother saw it on my face. He was like, something's up. And so my dad left. Me and my brother were in the car together, and I was like, hey, I got something to tell you. I don't believe in the church how I used to. And he goes, I know, man. He's like, I know. And I was like, you do? And he goes, yeah, and it's not going to affect how I feel about you. And I feel like crying now. It was so good to hear that from him, and he's my best friend. And it was just like amazing to hear that. And so I was on a high. I was super pumped about it. 20 minutes later, we both
went so much better than you thought it would.
I gotta say kudos to that brother.
Yes.
Nice job. Thumbs
Matt,
up.
love you, dude.
That's the right answer.
Yep.
A+.
Yeah, he did cry a little bit. He was like, of course, I'm a little worried, about beliefs and are we going to be together in heaven? He cried a little bit about that, but I was like, I get that. I'm not going to criticize him for that. That was totally understandable. Anyway, but it was perfect. I felt so good. And then my dad called me over when we got to their place, and he was like, hey, come here. And I was just on a high, and I was like, I'm going to tell my dad too. and it didn't go quite as well, but
how'd you tell him?
I was like, he was like, hey man, or bud, hey bud, I'm gonna, I realize that I might have made you uncomfortable talking about the baby blessing. We can wait. We can have someone else do it. The important thing is that he gets blessed. And I was like, Dad, I'm not going to bless him.
And we're not going to have him blessed.
And we're not going to have him blessed by anyone else. I've had a change in belief. I don't believe the way I used to. And he did his surprised, bewildered face. But he took a moment to compose himself, and he was like, when did this begin? And I was like, my mission, gave him a brief synopsis. And over the next month or so, he tried to help me resolve my doubts and
bring you back to
me back to the fold. But I think the more I discussed my doubts with him, the less he spoke to me. And I told him to read the gospel topic essay on polygamy. And he was actually like, he had a very nuanced view of it, which surprised me. And he was like, I think they did it wrong. Joseph Smith shouldn't have done it like that, and this, that. But the important thing is that, the church is still true. But so he surprised me with a very nuanced view of things. But sorry, I jumped ahead. Going back, he was like, I love you no matter what. I want to help you work through this, was basically his response, which was fine. I understand. But
did he give you Fair Mormon kind of stuff?
Yeah, for sure.
And was that helpful? Was the Fair Mormon stuff?
No, I'd already seen all Fair Mormon. I'd already been through that whole process. So everything he told me I didn't really resonate with me. But he tried, and I understand why he tried, and I don't hold anything against him for trying. But I was definitely able to make it clear to him what I believed, and he hasn't brought it up in a long time, over a year now. So I told my dad, feeling good.
Has it changed how he's treated you?
Our relationship has gotten so much better.
Better?
Yep.
Than before?
Yeah, it's interesting. It really is.
Our relationship was a little rocky, but it's definitely gotten a lot better. He used to kind of try to tell me what to do a lot, and now he just lets me live my life. And
I think it's because you just you broke out of the mold so much more than any of them could ever expect. And so I think when you did that, and the more you stuck to your guns about, being true to yourself, I think that's really helped him back off as far as
trying to preach to me and
just letting you, even outside of the church, it's just kind of his personality to be not your parents have never micromanaged you kids.
No,
but,
I wouldn't say so.
But just to really grant you freedom, more than you've had in the past, and to not impose their opinions or, I think they've really finally started to respect boundaries. And that's why your relationship has gotten better, because before, people pleaser Thomas wouldn't have set any boundaries to be respected.
I would just nod my head and say, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So that relationship has really developed, and I'm happy about that. Then I was like, all right, that was better than I thought. Let's tell my mom. And at this point I started going to therapy, right in between telling my mom and my dad.
So you waited how much time?
between
Telling
my mom and
dad
dad.
and mom? Yeah.
I want to say a month, 3 weeks.
Interesting.
Yeah, but he told her a little bit, but just that I was having problems. That's all. Which I'm glad he did say it like that, because I wanted to tell her myself. My mom was super sweet, and she immediately brought mental health into it. Since I said I was starting to see a therapist, and she was like, "How's your mental health?" She opened up to me about her mental health. She had gone through depression as well throughout my whole childhood, and I had no idea. And so it, like, being able to open up to my family was amazing, because they all brought something different to the table, and they were all pretty.
They responded
very
well
well.
as we could have hoped.
As well as we could have hoped. And then I told my little sister, and she's like my best bud too. And so she was like, "I love you no matter what." She told us things about her own faith journey as well. And she's still super in though. And then I told my big sister over the phone, because she lives in Arkansas, and she was super nice too. She definitely shared like a lot of spiritual experiences that she's had. But she was really nice and supportive. And so I was just on a high, and I was going to therapy. I was feeling so much better about myself and about life in general. And my therapist was so good. And then I had my buddy Zach that commented, and the Denny's guy, he was going through all that with me too. We had a couple other friends too that were going through it. So I just felt really supported during that.
Community and a good therapist.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you want to give a shout out to your therapist, or would you rather keep that private?
I'm fine as long as there's like, he said I could say his name. So Cody Merrell, amazing.
Utah County?
Utah County. If you're going through a faith crisis,
We'll add that to the show notes.
book him. He is amazing.
He specializes in faith crises, right?
Yeah. I think he said he would watch this. So if you're listening, dude, like, you're the best. Like, you made such a big difference. Cody Merrell, I think it's spelled Merrel. Not
right.
the other way around. It's a little different than the other Merrell. Anyway, that leads me to another song, the Easy Way Out song I wrote the first day I went to therapy, and it's about my inner dialogue, about leaving the church and finally coming to terms with it, and what I thought my family was going to say, which turned out to be a little different than what they actually said. I imagined the worst, and they exceeded my expectations. So should I play that one again?
So,
or?
yeah, like this is, y'all are gonna love this song. Let me just say that, like, there are all sorts, there are these common stereotypes that that Orthodox Mormons have for Mormons who lose their faith and leave the church, and things like they wanted to sin, they never believed in the first place, and there's always, like, it was too hard for them and they wanted to take the easy way out. And so I don't know if you had that in mind when you picked the title, but do you want to talk a little bit about why you would choose that title for a song about leaving the church, knowing that that's kind of the stereotype, and if there are lyrics or whatever that kind of address that?
I mean, honestly, I think the lyrics speak for themselves, and you're gonna know. You're gonna know. Okay. But the whole thing is just like taking that stereotype and running with it. Like, you think I'm going to take the easy way out? Okay, well, this is what the easy way out is like. And why don't you take step into my shoes and yeah.
All right.
See what it's like.
Here it is.
Yeah.
Easy Way Out.
Yep. This is the title song on my EP. So go listen to the full version. It always ends up tied up in my mind, and squeezes all the love until it dies. A never-ending circle of design that pulls me back for questioning my life. Well, serves you right for asking why you're here. You're fine, you're here, you're fine. I hear you're fine. Shut up, you're fine. I never get a second point of view. Why bother when the one you have is true? How dare you ever leave this special place that ebbs and flows on what it wants to say? And what they say is I'm okay, that I'm not broken, but I am. I think I am. Oh God, I am. I guess I'll take the easy way out. I'll tear my roots, I'll dig my grave and spit it out. Leave it alone, leave it alone. If you can't stay, but you can change, I'm changing every goddamn day. So worry what the other ones will think. Inside the well, it never looks that deep. Go and grab your spade and dig that rabbit hole. But once you start, you'll never come back home. Well, serves you right for asking why you're here. You're fine, you're here, you're fine. I hear you're fine. Shut up, you're fine. I guess I'll take the easy way out. I'll tear my roots, I'll dig my grave and spit it out. Leave it alone, leave it alone. If you can't stay, but you can change, I'm changing every goddamn day. I never thought of it as an abuse. The happiness can always trump the truth. Well, ignorance is bliss, they always say. The truths of now are lies from yesterday. And what they say is we're okay, that we're not broken, but we are. It's never been more clear that we are. I guess I'll take the easy way out. I'll tear my roots, I'll dig my grave and spit it out. Leave it alone, leave it alone. If you can't stay, but you can change, I'm changing every goddamn day. I'm changing every single day. I'm changing every single day. I'm changing every goddamn day. Thank you.
I'll clap too.
Beautiful. That's a favorite. I'm going to try and get you to sing that at Thrive.
Oh, I'll totally sing that at Thrive. No problem.
November 14th, Salt Palace. You'll get to hear Thomas Stokes as
Big Crick.
Big Crick sing Easy Way Out. That's a good one. Thanks. You. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Somebody wrote chills in the comments.
Oh, man. Thanks. Yeah.
All right. So you took the easy way out.
I took the easy way out. No big deal. You know, whatever.
Let everyone know when you left the church. And now you can sin. Now you can drink beer.
Yeah, that's all I ever wanted. I love beer.
That was the only reason.
Smoke weed.
Yeah.
You can swing if you want. You can do everything you want to do, basically.
Yeah.
That's why you did it.
Oh, yeah. On a side note, beer is such a wonderful, wide world. I know you don't drink, but
Not yet.
It's you don't have to, like, it's whatever, but it's been cool. It's a way to bond, you know, it's a way to bond with me and my buddy. We've bonded over that. It's cool. But yeah, let's see. There's one more song.
So that was how long ago did you come out to everybody?
That was April
of 2021.
Of 2020.
Okay, so a year.
Yeah.
So a year year ago.
Yep, year ago.
Yep, it's been a while now.
Year and a half, yeah. We've been navigating that with family
Kind
ever
of COVID,
since.
right at the beginning of COVID.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, a little bit into COVID is when I came out.
Which it was kind of perfect timing because a couple months before he officially came out is when COVID, came to the States and everybody was like, ooh, we should probably start being careful. And so everybody was doing church at home.
Convenient.
Which kind of saved us because by this time we were like, we don't need to be going to church. And so we didn't have to approach that quite yet, which was kind of nice just while we got our bearings. And then come April when we just, clean break.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know, it was just nice timing.
It was just a little break before to prepare, telling the family.
Which honestly, it wasn't like it was the calm before the storm or anything because his family handled it really well.
Yeah,
but
amazing.
Even for as well as it's gone, there have still been
hiccups,
little things that, you have to brace yourself for.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's worked out.
Yeah, I had a conversation.
The timeline.
Sorry.
You're good.
I had a conversation with my mom the other day, and she was like, she kind of wanted to know a little bit more in depth about what was really going on with my faith crisis. And it was hard. It was hard for her to hear it because she's such a sweetheart and she just wanted me to be happy. But she said that she wasn't emotionally prepared to hear all the details. And like, I respect that, but also it's kind of sad that she's not. But I understand why. It's not her fault. It's the way the church conditions you. And the church has been a really big help for her personally in her life. And who am I to, question that? It's just, it's hard when they don't see eye to eye.
It's getting them to come around to your point of view.
Yeah. And then, since then they've found, some of them have found out about my TikTok and didn't agree with that.
I feel like that's honestly been the hardest hit.
The TikTok,
almost.
yeah.
It's just that aside from you being out of the church, you actually have enough hurt feelings to poke a little fun. Like, why would you want to poke fun? You should just leave and leave it alone. But it's like, it's kind of therapeutic for people. So
let's see. If I remember, you basically took, for a while, you were taking primary songs, changing, or hymns,
yeah,
and changing the lyrics to kind of satire.
Yeah.
Where you would talk about hard church stuff or I don't know if making fun is the right word, but being critical, or how would you describe those songs? And knowing that, when we started this episode, it's those primary songs and those hymns that were some of your early, most tender, loving moments. And that's been true for me as well. Is there a psychological or kind of a mental health reason or justification for, some would say, desecrating those sacred songs?
Absolutely.
Is it just, you're just mad? Is it just, it's actually therapeutic? Talk about your strategy or your thinking or your justification or reasoning for that.
I can honestly say I have been mad at the church, but all of my Exmo hymns, as I call them, have come out of mostly healing myself. That's how it started because, I was so petrified of doing anything blasphemous. I thought that if I didn't pray before a road trip, or if I didn't wear my garments on a road trip, I would get in a car accident. If I desecrated something sacred, it would come back and, God would smite me type deal. And so finally just doing it and letting go of that fear and realizing that nothing bad was going to happen was huge for me. And then all these people on TikTok, I was like,
it just blew up.
They blew up my comments and I started getting a ton of follows and they're like, oh my gosh, thank you. I needed this. This is so healing. And I'm like, I was just doing it for me and just a way to cope. And turns out a lot of people, it resonates with them. And so I did a ton of them. I did I think close to 50. And then
What are some examples?
I love to see, oh, this one's good. This is my biggest one was, I love to see the temple. I'm going there someday. I wonder what goes on there. My parents will not say. It's a sacred, not a secret place. They told me to stop asking. I'm preparing now for who knows what. what's the worst that can happen? And I got to sing the second verse too, because it's golden. I go, what is it? I just went through the temple. Oh shit, I'm in a cold. What's with the secret handshakes and my new baker robe? This isn't what I thought it'd be. It's more than just a bit odd. I'm a little scared to go again. Plus, my new name is Nimrod. So yeah.
Was your name Nimrod?
No. I just heard that was a name, and I was like, that's the worst name I've ever heard.
Okay, so just to be like to kind of process that, it's funny, it's hilarious, it's cute, it's well written, and for Mormons, those songs are sacred.
Mm-hmm.
And the temple ceremony is sacred. I'm thinking like, oh man, all the way up to now, but then like your mom watches that, she's not happy.
Ooh, no.
Like you're desecrating a sacred hymn. You're talking about the most sensitive thing, which is temple marriage and the temple. And you're like even talking about, you're kind of dropping a temple name, even though it's not yours.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like, somebody's going to say that's offensive. Why go that route?
Yeah, I totally get that. And the main thing.
We did have that.
We did.
when
Oh yeah.
Our family members found it.
Yeah. And I've also had my fair share of negative comments too.
Yes,
but
that's
at
true.
the end of the day, it's not for believing Mormons. It's not to slander the church in front of believing Mormons and in front of non-Mormons. It's for ex-Mormons that have gone through traumatic events in the church of any form. And it's for them to realize that it's okay to joke a little bit, or it's okay to feel things. It's okay to replace what you once held sacred with something that is more healing or funny. Because some of them are funny, some of them are just true, some of them are like kind of on the more tender side. So some of them are a little blasphemous. It's everywhere in between. So I realized that my family would not be happy. And what I'd say to them is, it's not for you. It's for people that need it. And you definitely don't need it. And so no offense to them. I get why they would be offended. But it's not meant to offend them.
What if somebody says you're fulfilling the stereotype of the angry ex-Mormon by making sacrilege out of primary hymns?
I don't think I sound that angry in my videos. And I don't think I sound that angry on this podcast either.
Well, it always presumes that anger's bad, and actually anger's a healthy emotion, and there are reasons
That's
why
true,
we have
yeah.
it, and there's something good about that.
I've been angry too. And it's a healthy way to process things. Yeah. There's a lot of good. There's some new Exmo hymn parody people stepping up too, like Quirky Turkey. She's doing it now. She does a good job. But I've kind of run out of hymns. I'm sure there are more I could do.
Them.
Yeah, there are some more I could probably do, but I feel like I did all the good ones.
Okay. So are there other parts of your story you want to share, or are you feeling like you're kind of getting close to the end in the final song? Because I do have maybe a question or two, but I don't want to disrupt the stream of the story.
I think we're getting close. I wanted to bring up one more thing with the family. And this is for everyone that is going through this and navigating a faith crisis with their family. There are always going to be ups and downs. My family, like we said, has been extremely supportive for the most part. But then, like, for example, just this past, when I released my EP, they all sent some, not all of them, some of them sent texts saying they were happy that I released my music. But like, my mom called and she didn't want to listen to the song I just played because I say "God damn" in it, and I told her like it might offend you, and so she said she would just skip it until she was ready to listen. None of them have bought the EP yet, which is fine, but like there's going to be ups and downs, and you just got to be patient with them. And I expect them to be patient with me as well. So just remember that don't expect too much, because they're part of a system that has told them to suppress their emotions and to cut out anything that doesn't make them feel the Spirit. So you got to be merciful.
I mean, basically, the worst case scenario is getting disowned, cut off, shamed.
Which I know people that's happened to.
What's that?
I know people that's happened to. It's horrible.
But that hasn't happened to you.
I'm lucky.
Yeah. So shout out and congrats to all of Thomas's family.
Thanks, guys. I love you.
What about the Cece, what about the fear that you would be blamed? Because that's usually what happens is if there's an in-law, especially if the in-law, was the first to lose their faith, or in your case, you were suspect to begin with because you had a healthy teenage and early adulthood. So that's a problem. Then you're going to be potentially, or at least worry that you're going to be blamed, if not sort of get the vibes that people are kind of blaming you. Is there anything you want to say about that? I mean, these are still your in-laws, so it's probably hard to, be hard to talk about that.
Yeah, no, funnily enough, Thomas worried about that a lot more than I did. Yeah. He just wanted to make sure that they understood that it wasn't me dragging him away. It's that he was already being pulled in that direction. And then I just happened to come along and help him work through that. And, it didn't have the outcome that they wanted, but it wasn't ultimately my doing that he is where he is today. Mm-hmm. I feel like we've had a lot of heated conversations in the past, and sometimes during those conversations, I would tell him, I was like, hey, I'll take the blame. If I was kind of being a hothead in the moment, I was like, let them blame me. Who cares as long as you are standing up to them. And of course, Thomas was like, no, we're not going to take that route. Like, they need to always know that it wasn't you to begin with.
I was very adamant about that.
But yeah, he was adamant about it. And I was more so just like, I was mostly worried about him getting through his people pleasing and really standing up to himself and speaking his truth. And I was like, if I get thrown to the wolves by doing that, I will take that. And in time, I think it would heal itself. But we just didn't have that issue to start with. My in-laws are really great. Like, we've talked about them having some concerns through our dating. But as soon as we were married, again, I feel like they realized that we were together, so it didn't matter how it happened that he left the church, because we were married and, that's official, and what were they going to do about it? So
I talked to my mom and reiterated just the other week that CC was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I always think about what would have happened if she wasn't there. I probably would have found an active Mormon girl, been, clenching my knuckles, trying to hold it all in. And
be living a lie right now.
I'd be living a lie. Maybe it would have led to divorce. Maybe it would have worked out and she would have left with me, but that's a scary thing. And I'm really glad that Cece was there to help me.
There's another scenario there, which a lot of people are in, and this is going to be emotional for some people, but just packing down the distress and the anxiety and the sadness and the depression from living an inauthentic life.
Yeah.
Faking it in fear of your spouse leaving you or not loving you anymore or disappointing everyone. And that can make someone very ill, and it can even lead to, suicidal ideation, just to be totally honest, because when you live a lie for too long, and when you just sit with those internalized feelings of depression and anxiety and inauthenticity, you multiply that by months and years, and it can wreak havoc on your health, not just your emotional and psychological health, but also on your physical health. Mm-hmm. And in some cases, it can actually be deadly.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to be overly dramatic, but I've been in this business for 20 years, and I see it all the time.
Absolutely. It's very true.
So I think you made the healthiest choice.
I think I did too. Think? I could not be happier.
So you talked about that weight, that pressure, that anxiety, stress, that almost constant, sort of chronic panic attack that was just always there. Mm-hmm. How's it been since disclosing to everybody?
It's gone. Well, it didn't go away fully until a couple months into therapy. And my therapist helped me work through it, and telling everyone, being more open and authentic, realizing a few truths about myself and about why I was feeling the way I was feeling. it just went away. And I still, sometimes depression can creep back in, but it's really fleeting now. Usually it's just like if I'm having a blah day, but that's the worst it gets. And it used to be debilitating, but I'm the happiest I've ever been now. And the difference, she can probably testify to this, is night and day. It's crazy.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, if I have anything to add, it's just that Thomas was also worried off and on throughout his journey that he's so funny. He would get dark circles under his eyes if Abel had like a bad night sleeping or something. And then if we went to his family's house for Sunday dinner or something, he would be like, do you think that my family's going to think that my countenance is gone and that the light has left my eyes? And I'm like, you're sleep deprived. Like, we're sleep training our son, you know? And so, but it is funny that apart from him worrying about people thinking that his sleep circles is, you know, Satan's hold on him, I do feel like he does almost come across lighter now that he doesn't have that depression and that anxiety as constantly.
Yeah,
So
it's got nothing to do with my countenance and everything to do with my behavior. And I think you see it. Yeah. I feel
and just
it.
like prioritizing your mental health after having something like that happen to you.
Absolutely.
I do think you can see it physically. So it's been nice to see. It's hard to start your marriage in a hard spot like that, and I don't think we'd go about it any other way. And it's not like at any point we were like, did we make a mistake in getting married so soon? But yeah, it was just kind of a hard foot to step off on, and it's been nice to see that, you know, we're coming up on 3 years, and it's like, okay, we both feel good. Yeah, we got it now.
We met each other, or we started dating while each of us were at our worst. So.
Yeah, it was really interesting that we like met each other when
and
we
we've
did,
just grown
and
together.
we're still
We've just grown together. I feel like.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, it's. I mean, you're both saying that you're both happier and healthier, both individually and in your marriage. Is that right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's been good for your marriage. It's been good for your individual mental and physical health. True?
Yep.
Yes.
True.
Okay. And that matters. That should matter. As far as the countenance thing goes, I just have to say, I had someone message me the other day and say that they totally lost their faith, but they haven't told anybody yet. And they thought it was weird how nobody's made a comment about their countenance.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, isn't that true?
Like, they'll only make that comment after they know
something's up.
That you've left.
Yeah.
And you can leave and like all of a sudden no longer be depressed, go off your meds, lose 20 pounds or whatever it is. You could be beaming, you know, like Donny Osmond's smile, and they're still going to say your countenance is falling.
Yeah. There's no avoiding it. Yeah.
Because it's confirmation bias. You see, you ignore what you don't want to see, and you see what you want to see. And so Margie and I, in our last Mormon Stories episode, we just talked about acceptance and how important it is to just accept. You can't control people's reactions. Mm-hmm. When you try, you usually make it worse.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So the best thing you can do is just practice acceptance of where you are and who you are and everything. And that's, oddly enough, accepting the pain and suffering or the disappointment of others is often the healthiest way through.
Yeah.
And I recommend that recent episode with Margie on, telling believing family and friends when you lose your faith. It's really outstanding.
Yeah.
We've gotten great feedback. It's just a couple episodes ago.
Yeah, I saw that one. I was planning on listening to that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been good. Let's see. I think that's about it. There's one thing that I wanted to mention that maybe I can get your feedback on, but I don't know.
It's therapy
This is going to turn into a Q&A.
This might be a good idea. It might be a bad idea, but I've put together a slideshow that details my whole story because my family, I wish they would ask more about it, but they haven't because they've been a little too scared. But I put together a whole slideshow detailing my story, and then at the end, after like 3 disclaimer slides, I'm like, here are all the reasons I left the church, and I just want people to have it available as a resource if they ever want to look at it. If they don't, that's fine. But I'm hoping one day they'll all read it and come to terms with it and ask me questions. Family, if you're watching this, I mean, you've probably read the slideshow by now if you're watching this, but please give it a watch, give it a watch and a read and ask me questions. And if you're a friend too, I want to be open about
book.
it. Yeah.
So what we'll do is in the show notes, we'll include, you can give us the PowerPoint or the slideshow. We'll create a PDF out of it. We'll upload it. And anyone who wants to know kind of the reasons, they can upload it. Are you saying you wanted to give a narrated version as well, where you actually talk through it, or you just want the visuals?
No, just the visuals.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see about that. Yeah, it's not done yet, but I'll try to get it
Finish it up and email it to us.
Sure. All right. Yeah. Why not?
Okay. Is that what you were asking or something else?
I was just seeing if it was a good idea to share it with my family. And
Okay. Well, let me tell you so we talk about that in the thing with Margie, and my general feedback is, and there's, I'm not your replacement prophet, and I don't mean you. I mean,
I don't.
You listeners, I don't know what's right. Every situation is different. I'm just one guy, blah, blah, blah. I'll just tell you what I generally advise people as my default advice is it's best not to put yourself in the position of being someone else's teacher.
Yeah.
For a couple reasons. One is most people don't want to know. Overwhelmingly, the response to those big long letters that people write, exit letters that they write about why they're leaving, is that they're ignored and they're never read.
Yeah.
It creates in people often the backfire effect where they feel like you're trying to deconvert them, and oftentimes that backfires not only because it isn't great for your relationship, but also oftentimes people will cling even tighter to their beliefs when they feel like their beliefs are being challenged. Mm-hmm. There's a couple good episodes on a podcast called You're Not So Smart about the backfire effect. It's not a perfect theory, but I think there's something to it, and it's worth checking out. You really do strengthen their beliefs sometimes just by presenting them with evidence, and not even opinion, evidence, like factual evidence. Often, whether it's gun control or global warming or abortion, pick your topic, politics, evidence that's actually correct strengthens the opposing point of view, believe it or not.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And then finally, you don't want them to ever you don't want to ever be accused of the reason why someone leaves.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's just say they read it and they love it and they leave the church, well, guess who gets blamed, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the last thing. We've really focused on
I'm not saying don't do it.
No, but
these
it's
are things to think about.
It's certainly one of the hesitations I have had in sharing with my family. So,
but I mean, if you just put it out there, they're adults. So another argument, let's just say the opposing argument is they're grown arse adults. If they click on it, if they download it, that's up to them.
Yeah.
And, and there are a lot of people that are grateful. Just to give the opposing advice of what I just said, how many people are just so grateful that their loved one shared with them their thoughts and their feelings and concerns, helped them see the church for what it truly is, and then they were able to kind of take back their life and live an authentic life. So I can argue with myself. There's really no one right answer. Ultimately, adults just have to make adult decisions.
Yeah.
And so what some people do is just refer people to the Gospel Topics essays, or here's Rough Stone Rolling, or here's No Man Knows My History, or here's the CES letter. I want you to have your own journey.
Yeah, exactly.
I never want to mess up with your faith. So there's no right answer. I'm sure I confused you more than I did help you. But those are some of the things that people...
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
And I think because, like you said, about not being somebody's teacher or not being the reason that they leave and having those accusations, I think the reason why Thomas finally did come to the conclusion of making a PowerPoint was just in case any of his family reached out to him first, wanting to know more. Because up until this point, we have been very careful to not act like we're trying to convert them or deconvert them. And it's been kind of disappointing how little they have wanted to know. But on the off chance that they did come to him and want to know more,
I would like to have
then
something
it would
ready,
be there laid out. I guess is that I don't know. I don't know if that's what you had in mind.
Yeah, no, that's for sure.
Because we've definitely had that fear too, that people would be like, okay, you are pulling people away from the church. You need to just chill and let them come to their own conclusions.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it's very
we
carefully
hope
worded
that
so far,
someday
so we'll see.
family would actually reach out and come to us first. That would be nice. But
Yeah.
I mean, the in a high demand religion, the consequences of losing your faith and leaving are just so dire, or the perceived consequences of leaving a high demand religion can be so scary, so dire. Some people in their 50s and 60s and 70s or 80s, do they really want to make a change now with all that sunk cost?
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah,
So, it just makes sense why a lot of people just never want to know.
Yeah,
They just
I
don't
get
touch
it.
it.
Even though you're their child or their grandkid or their sibling, some people just never want to go there.
Yeah, I get it.
It's all about comfort zone because
Yeah.
you definitely have to you have to break out of it when you're leaving something that you've been raised in. So
Yeah, very true. So yeah,
Right.
I think that leads into my last song.
All right.
We can do it.
Do it.
This song's called "I Don't Have to Know," and that's just what I feel right now. I really don't.
This is a really good.
I don't have to
concluding one.
know everything. And this is about my plea to God and this, the countless times I prayed to find answers. That's out of tune.
Here you get tuning live on Mormon. This is how raw and real. This is like unplugged, MTV unplugged.
Yeah, all the
You get
behind the
tuning.
scenes.
Behind the scenes, you get the tuning. You get the tuning. That's how real. And he's tuning by ear, of course. He doesn't need no stinking tuning fork or right?
Exactly.
How did it get so out of tune?
How you doing?
Capo.
Oh,
I had the
okay.
capo
Oh,
on,
yeah,
and so
yeah.
when I take it off, the intonation is a little off usually.
All right. So the name of the song is
I Don't Have to Know by Big Crick.
Big Crick.
Yep, and you'll notice a few special lines. Just keep your eyes peeled. Or
Okay.
your
Ears.
ears.
Ears peeled, yeah.
Okay. I've waited all night. I'm kneeling still. I wanna talk to you. I wanna talk to you so bad. And I can't believe you, at least not those ties. They cannot speak for you. They cannot speak for you like that. So if you're whatever they say you are, what am I calling to? What am I calling to you for? But I've prayed, there could be nothing, but I've seen miracles. I really hope there's something, and I'm okay. I hope it shows. I don't have to know. You're everything to nothing, and the hardest thing that I let go. So what's this love I've heard all about? 'Cause I can't see you here, no, I can't see you anymore. And I lost my meaning, but I'm scared of death. So what's my body worth, and what's my spirit worth up there? And I swear I'll follow you until the end. Just give me anything, a simple voice, no questioning what's real. But I've prayed, there could be nothing, but I've seen miracles. I really hope there's something, and I'm okay. I hope it shows. I don't have to know. You're everything to nothing, and the hardest thing that I let go. You're You're everything to nothing and the hardest thing that I let go. So I'll say your name and you'll prick my heart. So what's with all the special clothes? I'd spill my guts and slit a throat to know. And I heard you watch me be still my soul. Been sitting quiet for quite some time. They're telling me I've nowhere else to go. I never wanted home to change. And I asked, I heard all be okay. You don't have to stay. But I've prayed there could be nothing, but I've seen miracles. I really hope there's something, and I'm okay. I hope it shows. I don't have to know. You're everything to nothing and the hardest thing that I let go. You're everything to nothing and the hardest thing that I let go. I don't miss it though. I don't miss it though. You're everything to nothing and the hardest thing that I let go. I don't miss it though. I don't miss it though. You're everything to nothing and the hardest thing that I let go. I don't miss it though. I don't miss it though. You're everything to nothing and the hardest thing that I let go.
Yay! Yay!
Thank
I
you.
love that one too.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Yay! That was so
supposed to
good.
clap.
And the lyrics you wanted people to notice.
I'll say your name and you'll prick my heart. So what's with all the special clothes? I'd spill my guts and slit a throat to know. In reference to the temple ceremony. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Savage.
Yeah.
Savage stuff.
I suppose.
Savage, but make it pretty.
Yeah, right. So yeah, that's writing all this music has been really therapeutic for me. It's what I do when I'm sad and also when I'm happy because I wrote, Free. I wrote that one about Abel and CC, and it just helps me express myself and deal with hard emotions. And I thought that maybe other people would like to hear it too. So I began production on my album, released the first 3 songs as an EP on Bandcamp. That's on sale. All that money is going to go directly towards producing the rest of my album, which I definitely need. If you guys want to support, that would be very much appreciated. So we can get this album to you guys as quick as possible, and the album will be free, of course. And then, I want to do events and live shows and help build a community around this. People like Mindy Gledhill and Tyler Glenn and guy from Imagine Dragons. Why did I forget? Dan Reynolds.
Wayne Sermon.
They're all giants and they've come before me, but I'm just a regular dude. But I have these songs that I wanted to share as well. So hope you guys have enjoyed them and hope you guys enjoy the album too.
Yeah. Well, tell us one more time how to find your stuff.
So right now you can find me on Instagram and TikTok, big.crick.music. I'm on Bandcamp. Just go to bandcamp.com or download the app, and search for Big Crick and I'll come up. You can buy my EP there. I'm also on Spotify and Apple Music. My first song, Dirty, is on there. And I believe those are all the platforms I'm on right now. Yep.
All right.
Any of that.
Big Crick Music.
Yeah. Also, I need to do one more shameless plug. My wife is an amazing esthetician.
If you want beautiful skin,
This is totally unrelated,
if you want your
but
skin
thank
to
you.
glow like
Yeah.
Cece, the smartest person ever interviewed. on
Look
Mormon
at that
Stories.
skin. Come on. We own our own spa, and so if you want,
What?
if you want a facial, come book with us, and we'd love to have you. So that is also, we'll throw her social media on the link too. It's CC, what is it? CC.rider with a Y .skin on Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah, we love shameless plugs on Mormon
Oh
Stories.
yeah, I'm all about shameless plugs.
We've actually had people from Thomas's TikTok book facials, which is really fun because then we actually get to meet in person and
Yeah, it's cool.
correspond. So I
Yeah.
guess, throw that plug in there. We'd love to meet you
Down
guys.
in Orem.
Yep, Orem.
All right.
Orem, Utah.
All right. Well, this has been a lovely day, and it's so lovely to meet you guys. I love the music, Thomas and Cece. I love your story.
Thank you.
It's just been so fun, and you guys are awesome. And I hope you'll stay in touch, and let's keep building community and do
Absolutely.
amazing things. And I'll talk to the committee, but I'm going to try and sneak you in at Thrive. Thrive Day is November 14th, 2021 in the Salt Palace. We've already got like 150 people signed up, and we haven't even started marketing yet. We're shooting for at least 2,000 people at the Salt Palace. It's going to be super fun. Please go to, why are you guys laughing?
That'd be a big
That
show.
would be,
Big show.
That'd be exciting though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be down.
Well,
I'd
get
totally
ready.
do it.
Get
Yep,
ready.
I'm ready.
Yeah, go to thrivebeyondreligion.com/events to register for Thrive Day. There's also a Youth Thrive Day for kids between 12 and 18, led by Jesse Funk. Same day, same venue. You can register at the same site, thrivebeyondreligion.com/events for your youth and for yourself. And we're gonna have Sarah Edmondson from the ex-Nexium cult member from The Vow, HBO's The Vow. She has a podcast with her husband Nippy called A Little Bit Culty. She's going to be there. Why are you guys laughing? Lance Allred is going to be there. He's a former NBA player, played with LeBron James on the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's first legally deaf NBA player, was raised in the Allred group. He's got a great story. He's got a TED Talk called What is Your Polygamy that's got over 4 million views. Lance is going to be keynoting. We'll have Bill Reel there, Art Radio Free Mormon there, Natasha Helfer there. Luna Corbden is going to be there. So many amazing people. Monica Crowfoot and Alan and Katie Mount from Marriage on a Tightrope. Plus, Cara Burrell is going to be leading a bunch of TikTokers to have a comedy hour. It's going to be so fun. So sign up now. Tell all your friends. Let's fill this thing up. And by the way, it's totally zero profit. Thrive is a nonprofit. We had to, the organizers had to put down probably $15,000 just to reserve the Salt Palace. We'll be lucky if we make that back. But we don't do it for the money. But definitely don't think this is anyone getting rich. This is literally just to help you find friends, to help you find community, to help give you tools to navigate your faith crisis, to help you lead a healthy, happy life after religion or after Mormonism. So please come if you want to, and maybe you guys will be there.
Yeah, that
You
would be
guys can
awesome.
set up. In fact, you guys can set up a booth. Anyone who sells books, sells music, TikToks, podcasters, you can all set up a booth, and you can sell your stuff, your merch, your CDs, whatever you do. People can donate to your Venmo if you just want to meet the artist. So you guys can have your own booth if you want.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
And just email thrivebeyondreligion@gmail.com, and Clint will tell you how to set up your stuff.
Yeah, perfect.
All right.
That sounds awesome.
Well, you guys are lovely. Take care.
Thank you.
Have a
Yeah,
great
you
night.
too.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's been awesome. Crazy, cool experience. Yeah.
We'll keep living a happy, healthy life. Keep on shining.
Yeah, we will.
That's what it's all about.
Will do.
We'll be here.
All right. Thanks, everyone. You guys take care. Thanks for your support. And Cara Burrell, hope you get well. Get well soon so we can have you back. Thanks to Brooklyn and Gerardo and everyone at the Open Stories Foundation. Thanks to all you who donate. Please go to mormonstories.org and become a donor if you aren't yet to help make this possible. And we'll see you guys all again very soon on another episode of Mormon Stories Podcast. Take care, everybody.